So hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto gets a bloodline from Kami. Part 3. If you guys enjoy this, what if? Comment down below. And let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content. And leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also share this video with your friends. And check out the description. And check out my playlist. So let's start the video. Chapter 13. The next morning Naruto awoke and found Ino laying on his chest, and he smiled and looked at the clock before he reached under the covers and slapped Ino hard across the ass. Ino jerked awake and screamed a moment in pain and shock before looking around and said, "What the hell was that for?" Naruto said, "Purposely messing up my apartment when you heard I was in town." Ino looked sheepish, and Naruto asked, "So how are you doing?" Ino said, "Better now that you're here." Naruto sat up and blinked as he saw Ino was only in a pair of shorts and a tank top, and he shook his head and said, "So what did you do while I was away?" Ino looked down and Naruto said, "Besides slapping Tsunade, that is." Ino eyes widened and said, "I guess you would hear about that." Naruto said, "Yeah, your old man came looking for me along with his two buddies to see if I knew what was up with you." Ino looked up in shock, and Naruto said, "Poor guy, didn't know what the hell to think after Desire showed him what happened between us." Ino paled as her eyes got wide and said, "What? What are you talking about?" Naruto pointed to his sword and said, "Remember how I saw your dream that one time? Well, Desire over there is alive. She was the one who was able to pull me into your dream. When your dad and his buddies found me and my team on the way back, I guess she felt I was in danger and cast over my entire team and your dad and his teammates. She then showed from the moment you first attacked me, to my punishment of you, and nearly every little talk we had including your real feelings, though she did keep our more intimate moments a secret, but he knows that you're my servant now, and he actually said you're just like your mother who was the same way. Bet you didn't know that, did you?" Ino eyes widened and said, "Mom was like that. Nobody ever told me." Naruto said, "Well, if your mom was like that, it was probably a lot of bedroom activities, and I don't think your dad with his previous image of you would have thought to tell you things like that. I think him hearing you say you had breasts and a pussy and how you should be used was the one that finally woke him up." Ino said, "So daddies are not going to kill you?" Naruto said, "No, he did give me the protective father speech I heard so much about, but nothing after that. We actually had a lot of other shit to deal with at the time, so I figured you would want to have a more private talk with me later. And one with you." Ino looked down and said, "Oh." Naruto put his hand on her shoulder and said, "I told him I would have you come see him in the next day or two. It's your choice. It's not something I will force you to do, but I do think you honestly need to have a heart-to-heart once with him. Tell him how you really feel. You have had years of practice of telling others what you think. I think you should do it again, but this time your real thoughts." Ino bit her lip and said, "I'm under house arrest. I can't leave the building." Naruto waved his hand and said, "I already got you cleared and got you put back on duty again, so you're fine. I've got my revenge on Tsunade and also gained some political power in the village. I'm also very rich right now and own a lot of buildings." Ino looked confused and asked how, and so Naruto told her about Sasuke and Hinata's secret relationship and then about the council meeting, and Ino bit her lip and said, "Oh my god, I can't believe that you tricked Hyuga-sama like that." Naruto said, "Well, I can be sneaky when I want to be. Especially when I had help. Anyways, there's something else I need to talk to you about. The day before you found me in the woods bleeding to death while you and Anko were in town. I met someone in the woods. It was Shizune, Tsunade's apprentice. But at the time I didn't know she was Tsunade's apprentice, I just saw her as a woman who was crying in the woods that I tried to help." Ino smiled slightly and Naruto said, "When I first heard about my bloodline, I was scared of the village and the way they would treat me and my children. That was why I wanted to find Tsunade in the first place. I had the idea of securing my bloodlines and protecting any children I had from both my family's enemies and Konoha. When I met Shizune I still had that idea in my mind and..." Ino eyes widened and said, "You slept with her?" Naruto said, "I did more than that. I told you about my ring. I didn't tell her how, but I did tell her before we did anything she would get pregnant and she agreed. I honestly thought she was a woman who wanted a child to raise and didn't have a husband or lover and that we would never see each other again. I just wanted to protect any children I had." As he looked down, Ino frowned and said, "So what does this mean for us?" Naruto said, "I told Shizune about us last night. In Konoha you and her are the only two I have any feelings for. I've flirted around to throw off suspicion and I've formed a bond with one other, but there are no other babies out there. You're the strongest bond I have though. I know that Shizune and I have feelings for each other and they could grow. But they're different from the ones I have for you." Ino looked down and said, "Because I'm just a servant." Naruto said, "No. You were never just a servant, Ino." With a small smile as she looked up in shock, Ino asked, "I'm not?" Naruto said, "No. Remember the vows we said to each other? I meant every word of them. You are my first true friend and my companion. They may not sound like much, but to me they mean more than you could ever imagine. If I could, you would have been the only mother to any child I had. But I knew that there was no way I could pull that one off. My bloodlines will be to be desired and sooner or later either they will try to steal it or force me into producing more heirs. To protect you and any children we might have I have to have more than one lover. Ino said so you're just using Shizune. Naruto said no. The bond I have with Shizune is unique as well. We both thought we would never see each other again. I know Shizune cares about me, but she cares more about the child she is carrying. While she would like me in her life and the child's life, she would raise him or her by herself if she thought it was best for her child. I would like to be in their life though. That is why I told her about you and why I am telling you about her and the baby. I could have kept it a secret as Shizune would deliver and it would be known she was pregnant before ever coming here, so nobody would have known who the father was besides her and me, so I could have hid it. But I didn't because I thought you deserved to know the truth. Ino bit her lip and Naruto reached up and pulled it out of her teeth and said stop that. Only I get to bruise them. Ino covered her mouth to keep from laughing, but Naruto could see the way her eyes curled up and she said alright. I knew before that I would most likely be pushed to the back for someone else since that was what I asked for. But thank you for not pushing me back. I know you have to have others. And I think you're right about your reasoning. But how many are you planning to have and who? Naruto said well Sakura has been hitting around the idea, but I think I'll keep her as just a friend and teammate that I flirt and tease. Her rejections over the years hurt me a lot, so I doubt I could ever trust her with a relationship more than that. Her feelings for Sasuke are real also, and even though he has Hinata, he is still going to have more than one, so I think I might be able to help them get together. Sweet but I see her as a sister of sorts. That red-eyed sensei Hinata has is hot and exotic kind of way, but I don't know anything about her, and I think I would only care about the sex since she's as good looking, but that's shallow of me, so I won't try to get to know her since I want real relationships, not just sex flings. Ino said been thinking about it a lot huh? Naruto said, you have to understand I didn't know how much I could trust you at the beginning. I was going to release you at the Chunin exams, remember? Ino looked away at that and Naruto said, but I don't think I'll ever release you now. I care too much for you to let you go. Unless it made you happy and then it would hurt. Ino said so you haven't got anyone else that you want to help you. Naruto thought for a moment and said there's one I would like to get to know as a possible friend, but none that I could see as a romantic relationship here in Konoha. Ino said, what about out of Konoha? Naruto said there's one I would like. But she's already a mother of a child and I did sleep with her. But that was more of a comfort thing than a lover sexual thing. But her situation was very unique. But she deserves a better life than any I could offer her. I might see her sometime if I am ever in her area. But that's only cause I'm literally the emotional shoulder she needs to cry on. Her husband was murdered in front of her and her son. Her son's father was killed in a fishing accident, her country had been enslaved, and some things happened that were worse than seeing her husband killed in front of her, and the worst part is she couldn't talk to anyone about it because she had to be the pillar of strength for her family to take care of her son and her father who was our client. Ino thought for a few moments before her eyes widened and Naruto said I bet you could guess what I'm not saying so drop it. Ino looked down and Naruto said sorry. I'm defensive about it because I don't want to upset you, but the situation I have with Shizune and Tsunami are both ones I wouldn't change just because I feel a connection to them. Both are women who have experienced pain in their life and it reminds me of my own pain and I. Ino pulled him into a hug and said I understand. You have a big heart Naruto, you know that. Who do you turn to when you need someone's shoulder to cry on though? Silence was her answer and she waited a few moments and said just let it go. I'm here for you. Naruto was silent for a few moments and started speaking quietly and got louder the more he spoke. I hate them. I hate the villagers, I hate Tsunade, I hate the Sandaime, I hate my father, I hate all of them. I never had a choice. Sandaime lied to me about my parents and why I was hated. My father chose me to protect the village and left me nothing. Tsunade doesn't care about me. She cares about the connection I have to her past, just like Kakashi-sensei, he doesn't actually care for me, it's just his bond he had with the Yondaime. The villagers are shallow assholes who only care about their own. They made my life hell and they aren't sorry for it. I have to be the one to forgive them and be a better person. Why can't I be selfish and petty, why can't I get revenge against them? Why the hell do I have to follow their rules and act like everything's okay? It's not okay as he was huffing for breath at the end. Ino was shocked hearing Naruto and she whispered SHH. I'm here. Just let it out. Naruto shook his head and said crying doesn't do any good. I just got to live with it. Ino looked at Naruto and said then make me pay. Catching Naruto's attention. Naruto blinked and said what? As he looked at her. Ino said I'm a member of the village. I helped make your life hell. I invaded your mind, attacked you when we were kids, helped others make fun of you. I'm as guilty as the rest of the people in Konoha, so take your anger, your hate, your aggression out on me. Make me pay for all the pain and suffering you had. Naruto looked into Ino's eyes and saw the resolve she had and thought angrily, suit yourself. As he drew back his hand and looked at Ino's eyes, waiting for her to flinch or doubt, but she never moved her eyes away or weakened his resolve, and Naruto felt all the strength he felt from his anger had faded away, and he dropped his hand and began to cry. Ino pulled him close and thought, something I heard from daddy when I was younger. Even the strongest pillar needs the support of others to help hold the burden. You have become my support and I'll become yours, Naruto. Let me hold some of your pain. I'm strong enough to do that. When Naruto finally quit crying, he looked up at Ino, whose face was showing kindness and compassion, and he reached his hand up and rubbed it against her face softly before putting it behind her head and pulled her forward, and he smashed his lips to hers. Ino was at first shocked by this, but then began to return the kiss, and she let her hands move along his back as he pulled her closer and closer as he fell back on his bed, pulling her on top of him before rolling them where she was on the bottom. Ino felt the kiss break as Naruto began to trail kisses down her neck to her collarbone, and he began to give small love bites to her neck, causing her to moan as he reached up and began to rub her breast with his hands, and he started to unbutton his shirt before he groaned and said, damn it. Ino blinked as she felt Naruto stop and heard his groan and said, what's wrong? Just then there was a knock on the door and Naruto said, your dad's here. Ino's eyes widened and then she sat up as Naruto rolled off of her and she said, what does he want? Naruto said, how the hell am I supposed to know? I'm going to go wash up. Invite him in and offer him something to drink. As he got up and went to the bathroom, Ino stood up and began to fix her clothes quickly before she went to one of the doors before opening it and looked as her dad was at another door leading into the apartment and she said, hello daddy. Inoichi frowned a moment and said, Ino. Is your master here? Ino said, yes daddy, he's refreshing himself and will be out shortly, please come in and have a seat. Can I get you anything to drink? Inoichi closed his eyes and came in the door. Ino opened and said, water please. As he walked over and sat on the couch. Ino closed the door and walked into the kitchen and Inoichi said, so you really are his servant then? Ino said yes. As she came back with a glass of ice water and set it on the coffee table in front of her father. Inoichi rubbed his head and looked at Ino for several minutes as she stood there and he asked, why didn't you ever tell me you felt that way? I could have. Ino said, what? What could you have done? Love me more, bought me more things, spent more time with me. None of that would have made me feel any better. In fact, it would have made me feel worse. I was numb inside daddy. Nobody saw the real me. I could say nobody cared about me, but the truth is everyone cared about me so much I didn't know the difference between what real love and just respect for being the heiress of the Yamanaka clan was. Naruto was the first to see the real me. He was willing to punish me when I should have been punished and made me earn what I had. You told me once there was something special about seeing something you had to work at grow and bloom. I understand that now because I'm finally growing and I'm finally starting to bloom. All these years I was just a seed in a bag and then pulled out of the bag and put in the soil. I didn't have to do anything up to that point. If it wasn't for Naruto, odds are I would have stayed in the soil and died just like bad seeds do. But now I'm growing on my own power. Can't you understand that, daddy? Inoichi bit his lip and said, yes. I can understand that. Now. I'm sorry, Ino. I just wanted to protect you and raise you the best I could. I never meant to make you feel that way. Ino said, I know daddy. I know it's because you love me and I love you. But I also love Naruto, daddy. I know you don't like the idea of me being a servant, but I'm actually happy. He takes care of me, but he's not afraid to stand up to me. Yesterday when I saw him passing by I purposely messed up his place and then acted like I was asleep. As soon as he saw his place and saw me pretending to be asleep, he flipped the bed and told me to clean it. He didn't let it go, he didn't sugarcoat it. He proved that he wasn't going to let me just do what I want without caring about the cost of my actions. I tried to do the same thing before with you and the others, but Inoichi said the kitchen fire, the dress. I heard it from him. Memory. It's shocking for me to have seen and heard that. I pride myself on being able to see things and gather information. But I failed to do that and I had to have it pointed out by someone I didn't really have any respect for. No, hear me out. My lack of respect for him had nothing to do with Kyuubi. It had to do with the fact he acted like life was a joke. The way he laughed and smiled no matter what and showed such disrespect for people. It pissed me off. Naruto's voice came from behind him and said, then maybe you would have been happier if I was a typical person. One who took his anger and revenge out on the village. Maybe if I started making examples. As he walked around and drew back his hand in front of Ino. Inoichi's eyes got wide and he jumped forward and when his fist hit Naruto, Naruto went up in smoke and Naruto's voice said, see, you were just lying to Ino and yourself. If you were telling the truth then seeing me attack and possibly kill someone would have earned your respect regardless of who it was I attacked or killed. But obviously that's not the case. You really don't have a problem with me, it just pisses you off that you failed to see the truth yourself and you want someone to blame. Just like Konoha wanted someone to blame for the pain and suffering the fox caused. I'm an easy target not only because I'm the one who pointed it out to you, but because you feel that I've taken Ino from you, that she respects me more than you. And in some ways you're right. But you are and will always be her father. I won't forbid her from seeing you or you seeing her because like I told you before, master and servant, husband and wife, they are all just titles given to define a relationship. I honestly see Ino as I would a wife in all ways but name. I don't want to reveal our relationship publicly because I want to protect her. If you don't respect me then tell me what it will take to earn your respect. I'm rich now, I'm a successful business owner who can take care of your daughter if either of us were injured. I come from a highly respected family. All the same things Sasuke had, and I never heard Ino say you were against her chasing him. As for respect, I do respect people, but only those who have earned that respect. Should I respect people like Danzo who tried to basically kidnap your daughter, killed the Uchiha clan, and nearly started a war with another village? He was a respected member of the council and was nearly the Sandaime Hokage once. Should the people respect me for protecting Konoha by pretending to be a Jinchuriki to scare other villages away, or because I'm the son of a Hokage and related to 3 of the Hokages? The answer to both is no. I should be respected for the things that I do myself, not others. Maybe you believe that ninja should be emotionless tools. If so I'll ask Tsunade to get the records on Danzo training of his route and put Ino through it. Inoichi said don't you dare. Naruto's voice said then why can't I smile or laugh? Isn't life too short not to try and enjoy it, especially when we're ninjas and our lives are shorter than even civilians? Inoichi growled as he pulled at his hair and said damn it, this isn't how I wanted things to go. I just wanted you to come home and give up this idea of being a slave. I wanted you to give up your control over her. Naruto said done. Shocking Ino and her father as he continued Ino has the right as she always had to come and go as she pleased. There are no legal documents claiming her as my servant or wife. It's all her choice. It's not me you have to convince. It's Ino. Now if you will excuse me, I need to go meet my team and find out what we are supposed to do today. Just close the door when you leave. As he appeared dressed ready in his normal clothes and started toward the door, Inoichi said, that's it. In a shocked voice. Naruto turned and said what, you thought I would fight you or argue against you? It's pointless. You should know no better than that. You raised her and should know she will do as she wants mostly regardless of what you or I decide. Personally I would like to have your approval to be with her, but in the end it's not really my choice or yours. The only thing either of us have to really think about is what Ion will want and what she will do. Being a slave is her desire and dream. Also she squeals when she's really excited when she's punished by me. Ino turned bright red as Naruto walked out the door and Inoichi glared at his back before he turned to Ino, who was wanting to get away from an embarrassing conversation, and she said I'm staying with him. He makes me happy. Inoichi sighed and said Ino. You're not old enough to make a decision like this. Ino said I'm a Kunoichi, old enough to kill, old enough to drink, old enough to have sex, and old enough to die. I could be offered a political marriage or asked to be a mother already. If I'm old enough to do all that then why the hell am I not old enough to make a decision about what makes me happy? As she put her hands on her hips and glared at Inoichi. Inoichi rubbed his nose and said you are definitely your mother's daughter. I just don't want to see you make the same mistake your mom did. Ino asked what mistake. Inoichi was silent for a few moments and said your mother. When I first met your mom. It wasn't some great romantic moment or anything like that. Actually. I broke her nose. Ino's eyes got wide and said what? Inoichi said yeah. Me, Shukaku and Chauza had just come back from our first B-rank mission and we went to a bar and got really drunk. I don't remember everything but your mom was a newbie. Somewhere about where you are now and she came in the bar and got some alcohol and she also used a phrase old enough to kill, old enough to drink. I was really drunk and I mentioned that she should go back home because she wasn't old enough to kill, old enough to drink, or old enough to have sex. She didn't like being told that and she went to punch me in the face and I grabbed her fist and she tried with her other hand to punch me and I grabbed that one also and I headbutted her breaking her nose after she tried to kick me in the nuts. The headbutt sobered me enough to cause me to worry about her after I saw the blood coming out of her nose. Ino asked what happened. Inoichi's eyes glossed over and said she slashed my arm with a kunai when I went to check on her and she tackled me to the ground. She held the kunai at my neck and said see, you're dead. I sort of lost it. I threw her off me, grabbed her, bent her over a bar table, ripped her panties off and spanked her right in front of everyone. Ino was shocked and Inoichi shook his head and said looking back I don't know which of us was more shocked, your mother, me, my teammates, or everyone else in the bar. But then your mom turned while still on the table, looked me dead in the eyes and for a moment she had the same look you had from that thing Naruto did of what happened in that shack. Ino's eyes widened at that and thought oh shit. He knows about that. Inoichi didn't notice as he was lost in his thoughts and said, but then her eyes hardened and she said, well, what the hell you waiting on, bastard? I already proved I could have killed you. You got my panties off, so fuck me and prove I'm old enough for that and then buy me a beer. She shocked me so much I didn't even realize it until later that she replaced herself with me and I was the one on the table and she used the same kunai to cut my belt and pulled my pants down and… well. Let's just say when her dad walked in, I thought I was a dead man. But your mom surprised everyone by defending me against her dad. I fell in love with her right then and there. After that we became known as Inoichi and his Hellcat. She would cause all kinds of shit around town and I would have to stop her by punishing her. You couldn't imagine the shit she could cause. I remember this one time she… maybe I'll tell you that later. As he shook his head. Ino said, but why do you think of it as a mistake, Dad? Inoichi looked down and said because of that night. Because of what she was doing when her dad walked in. She had to quit being a kunoichi. Her body couldn't handle being a mother at such a young age. She delivered a baby boy who was stillborn. She had so many complications from your brother's birth that her health was affected by it the rest of her life. It's what ultimately led to her death. That's why it was a mistake, Ino. I'm afraid that you might accidentally get pregnant at such a young age and the same thing will happen to you. Ino bit her lip and said it can't happen. I can't tell you why, but Naruto is 100% fertile, so any woman he sleeps with will get pregnant. But his family left something for him that makes it where he's 100% infertile while using it. There is no middle ground on this. I won't get pregnant unless he wants me to when we do. Get that far and he thinks I'm too young also. I promise you, Dad, I won't get pregnant until I'm ready. Inoichi said I just don't want to see anything happen to you, Ino. I love you. Ino said and I love you, Dad. But like you made Mom happy, Naruto makes me happy. Please accept and approve of him being with me. I'll be with him regardless, but I would like your approval. Inoichi sighed and said I never could tell you no. But I got to threaten him to make sure he takes care of you. And if he ever looks like he's going to slap you like he did earlier, I'll kill him. Ino giggles a moment before she frowned and said, Dad. I need advice. Inoichi grabbed his chest and said, oh god. Ino glared at him and he asked, so what do you need advice about? Ino said Naruto has a lot of emotional baggage. Before you came here today I was trying to help him. I got him to open up some. But he's got a lot of anger and hatred built up from all the years of abuse he's had and I'm afraid it's going to someday consume him. Is there anything that can be done to help him? Inoichi thought for a moment and said give him some hobbies, he seems to like gardening. Get him to try it without his bloodline's help. Maybe painting. Maybe you can get him to play shogi or go with shikamaru. Maybe cooking. I can talk with Shikaku and Chaoza if you want since he seems to be marrying into the family sort of. Ino said I think he would like that. Also, I can't tell you who and it's not me. But he's got a baby on the way, Dad. If you could talk to him about being a father, he's nervous about that even if he doesn't admit it. Inoichi said I thought you said there couldn't be any accidental births. Ino said this one wasn't an accident. Both him and the woman planned it. I can't say anything else without breaking his trust and I probably already said too much. But I want him to form a bond with you, Dad. This will give you a chance to get to know him better and be more in my life. Please. Inoichi said alright. I'll see what I can do and I'll keep what you told me a secret. Damn, I'm wrapped around your finger just like your grandpa was wrapped around your mom's. Ino smiled and said thanks, Dad. But we should get going. I need to meet my team and find out what's been going on while I was under house arrest. Inoichi said so he got you released. Ino nods and Inoichi says, then I guess that means you can start working at our shop again. Today, after team practice. If you can. Ino said yes, Daddy. As she closed the door behind both of them and Inoichi left while Ino went to get her supplies from her apartment. As Naruto walked through the village he saw a lot of people were looking at him in shock and thought either they thought I was dead or word spreads faster than I thought. As he jumped up on the roof of a building and began to travel by rooftop till he was outside the village nearing the training grounds. When he made it to training ground 7 he blinked as he saw the rest of team 7, team 8 and 10 minus Ino there and he said, am I late? Kakashi said only 10 minutes. Naruto said, sorry I'm late, I got lost on the road of life. Both Kurenai and Asuma sweat dropped and Naruto said so what's up? Kakashi said actually, I'm not sure. When we got here the other two teams were already here and both Asuma and Kurenai said they wanted to wait until all of you got here. I sent a Kagebunshin to get you and the others but it just met Ino and her father leaving your building. I informed Ino her team was here. Asuma said, but isn't Ino still under house arrest? Looking surprised. Naruto waved his hand and said nah, I got that cleared yesterday. So if you didn't tell Kakashi-sensei what you're here for then why are your teams here if you don't mind me asking? Tiba said hey, why did you get Ink out of trouble, dope? Everyone pretty much heard she basically bitch-slapped the Hokage, and how did an orphan like you get her out of trouble? Naruto looked at Kiba and said, you mean you don't know? Kiba said, no what? In a confused voice. Naruto said, turns out I'm the great-grandson of the Shodaime Hokage, great-grandnephew of the Nidaime Hokage, and son of the Yondaime Hokage. I'm also the second cousin of the Godaime Hokage. Kiba snickered and said, yeah right dope. Kurenai said, actually Kiba. He's telling the truth. Kiba's eyes widened and said, huh. Well. Just because your family is famous doesn't mean shit. You're still the dope. Sasuke said, shut the hell up Kiba. Naruto is the strongest and best out of all of us. At this everyone was looking at Sasuke in shock, especially knowing Sasuke would never admit someone was stronger. Sakura said, he's right. Naruto killed 2 Chunin missing nin, battled a Jounin level missing nin as well as his apprentice, and killed over 100 mercenaries, eliminated a slave ring, created a plan to liberate a country, and practically saved all of Team 7 lives, as well as our client. Team 8 and 10 looked at Naruto in shock and said what? Kiba frowned and said I call bullshit. There's no way you could be that good. Naruto shrugged and said think what you want Kiba. I'll prove to you and everyone else that there is more to me than what they think. So anyways, what are you guys here for? I can feel Ino chakra getting close and she should be here in less than 2 minutes. Kurenai stepped forward and said I want the deal you have with the Uchiha cancelled. Hinata doesn't love him and you had no right to use her like that. Team 7 looked at each other before bursting out laughing and Naruto who was holding his side said you didn't tell them Sasuke. Sasuke tried to hold his side and said no, I thought Hinata-chan did. Sakura said oh god, that was actually almost as funny as watching Naruto play the council for idiots yesterday. Kakashi saw Kurenai was red-faced from being laughed at and said to Hinata, I think you might want to talk to your sensei privately for a few minutes and explain things. It's not funny to see her make herself look foolish for not knowing all the information. Hinata blushed and looked at Sasuke who said sure, go ahead. You are my wife now since we had the marriage ceremony last night, so no one could back out. Kiba screamed wife. What the hell? Ignoring Kiba's scream Hinata took a deep breath and said in a stuttered sensei. Sasuke-kun and I have been seeing each other for nearly 4 years now. Kurenai's eyes widened and screamed what? But what about your crush on Naruto? All the times I saw you looking at him with your bloodline. Kiba was also shocked and he looked at Hinata in shock and then at Sasuke in anger. Hinata stuttered. It was to keep my family from finding out since the Uchiha and Hyuga clan don't like each other. If they thought I liked Sasuke then I would have had that seal placed on me. My family thought that I was a disgrace even before I met Sasuke. He found me and comforted me after father said he would no longer train a failure like me. Naruto said damn, I wish I would have known about that. I would have blackmailed Hiashi more than I did. Kurenai looked at Naruto who said so. Is there some other reason you brought your team here than to demand me to do something that your student didn't even want done? Kurenai looked embarrassed and said I wish to apologize to Namikaze-sama. Naruto said well. If you really are sorry you could do me a small favor. Kurenai narrowed her eyes and said oh. And what might that be? Naruto saw Ino enter the training ground and said take all 3 kunoichi here to the hot springs and discuss with them their training and give them advice as a seasoned kunoichi to them while letting the 6 guys have our own discussion and advice day. That way all 3 of the sensei can evaluate their training of their students and see where we all are in our skills. The Chunin exams are coming up and I want to see how all 3 of our teams compare to each other and since Hinata husband is here and Sakura and Ino were both fangirls of her husband, it might be a good idea to make sure there are no problems. Of course, like me, Sasuke falls under the clan restoration thing, so he might try and take all 3, who knows. Hinata glared at Naruto and said I still owe you for buying Sasuke a prostitute. Naruto said why is it when you're angry you don't stutter? Now well, once I get rid of you 4 I'm planning on hiring a hooker for all the guys here. Everyone screamed what? Naruto said what's so shocking? If we enter the exams with so many heirs to the clans of Konoha, the idea of sending in a seduction specialist to try and steal Konoha bloodlines is a possibility, so by having each of the guys here experience seduction skills, they could better prepare to resist. As far as I know the only 2 guys here who's ever had their cherries popped have been me and Sasuke. I even question our sensei on that one. Do you guys really want to die virgins? Hell, I'll even hire you both just to make sure. As he looked over at the pale Asuma and Kakashi. Kurenai marched over and went to punch Naruto on top of the head and he moved in and placed his hand on her stomach and said freeze. Kurenai blinked and said in a demanding voice what the hell are you doing? As she started to move and Naruto said don't move. In a commanding voice. Kurenai narrowed her eyes as she felt chakra on her stomach and said alright, I'll bite, I can feel chakra on my stomach. What are you doing? Naruto said I've molded my chakra as a replacement. If the connection to my hand and your dress is broken, you will lose your dress and be standing only in what you have on underneath it. Everyone's eyes widened and Kurenai paled and said you wouldn't. Naruto smirked and said believe what you want. Kurenai frowned and said, alright, what do you want? Naruto said simple, I want the honest truth. All three of you will most likely put your teams in the Chunin exams. All of us except Sakura is a clan heiress. That many heirs in one exam would be a huge target to either try and kill or capture, even if it is in Konoha. Have any of you honestly thought of how to prepare your teams in case someone tries to take our bloodlines during the exams? People die in these exams and I've heard there's a survival part, so if there's a survival part, then there is a time where we have to protect ourselves. All I am wanting to know is what you three plan to do since if something happens to one of us, it falls on you. As he cancelled the chakra and stepped back. Silence went through the clearing and Kakashi said I honestly hadn't thought of that possibility. Have either of you? Asuma frowned and said no. Kurenai said me neither. The exams are 2 months away. Kakashi, SAIT 6 weeks. Kurenai frowned and said alright, I admit I was wrong and upset about assuming that Hinata didn't like the situation you put her in. But I'm not having my students sleep with prostitutes to train them. Naruto said of course not, I was just joking about that anyways to get you to attack me. Kurenai blinked and asked why would you want me to attack you? Naruto said because you're a rookie jounin who is angry about being embarrassed in front of your team and you are looking for a way to save face and I figure that if I brought up the possibility of what could happen in the exams that you would lie and say you had a plan and then you would spend the next month trying to actually come up with a plan so you don't look like an idiot in front of Kakashi, Asuma, or us. You're proud and you have every right to be. Women are naturally looked down on as weaker even though it's a crock of shit and have to work twice as hard for their rank. But pride is as much of a weakness as lack of skills and I wasn't going to take the chance you let your pride endanger others. Kurenai frowned and said and how do you know so much about me? Naruto said Ino and I had a mission with Anko-sensei. She mentioned you once in her lesson she taught us. Ino said yeah, that was about the time she was teaching you to be a censor and basically beat the living hell out of you and your pride. Naruto said yeep, I learned the hard way pride can be your greatest weakness. She also made me read that book. The Art of War by Sun Tzu. As he looked at Ino. Ino said yeah, I think that was the name of the book and the author. I don't really remember since she had me learning about poisons at that time. Kiba said to Ino. Why is Naruto's scent all over you? It's like you're practically bathing in his scent. Naruto said she lives in my apartment building and we ran into each other. Ino also has been looking after my plants while I was away, so she's most likely got my scent from that. Didn't your mom ever teach you not to ask such questions? Kiba growled and said what did you say? Kurenai said that's enough. Alright Naruto, since you obviously wanted to talk about the chance someone could be trying to steal Konoha bloodlines during the exams, what is it that you think we could do to prevent that? Naruto said I've actually got a good idea. Well, I think it's a good idea. I'm not sure though. But if it works then it will complete one of your students' goals in life. As he scratched his head. Kurenai said how so? Naruto said well. I don't really know a lot about this subject, so I'm not sure if it will work but. What if we requested a seal design that would allow us to protect our bloodlines, but have it where it can only be turned on or off by the person who has the seal on them? It's just an idea and I'm not sure it will work, but it might be possible. Kakashi said it could be possible, but not in the timeline we are talking about. Couldn't you ask for some more of those? Naruto frowned knowing Kakashi was talking about the ring and said no Kakashi-sensei. I can't summon. Hey, that might work. Ino asked what might work. Naruto said a summon seal. I admit I don't know how they work, but I've seen Jiji summon people immediately to him with a scroll in his office. What if we had a summoning scroll that would summon us just as a precaution? Maybe put a small signal seal on us somewhere, that way if one of us believes that someone isn't in the exams for the exams, but to steal our bloodlines, we could activate the signal seal and our sensei can pull us out of danger. I think each of us wouldn't mind failing an exam if it meant protecting our bloodlines. Kakashi said That's a good idea, but there's a chance someone's not after your bloodlines and you could have activated the seal on accident. Asuma said I just had a crazy idea. Konoha is in charge of the exam this time. There's no saying we have to do things the way they have before. Since we have a new Hokage it would be easy to claim she changed the way the exams were because she felt the old exam was outdated. All we have to do is convince Tsunade that due to the danger to the heirs and heiress of the clans that we should change the exams. But to change it to what is the question? The grin grew on Naruto's face and said I think I know the perfect test. Ino said why do I feel scared all of a sudden? Naruto smirked and said do you really want me to answer that? Thought so, what I was just thinking is the wave mission with a twist. If I hadn't gotten that info on Zabuza and Gato we would have probably all died on that mission. What if the test was information gathering, tracking, recon, and capture? Make it where we have to start somewhere in the village and we have to gather intel on a target. Say a chunin who's been given special orders to stay in the village while changing locations every hour, but once every 6 hours he meets up with another person who also has the same orders. The teams would have to first find their target, follow him or her, have some kind of password the two would share along with the location of an item, and then where they are to meet someone giving the password. Say the scroll could be hidden at training ground 7 under the bridge. The team that comes here gets the scroll, but then they have to get it to the person in a time limit. If not, then they fail. It's a little rough, but I'm sure it would be usable with a little planning. Asuma said, what about the threat to the villagers? Naruto said yeah, I guess that wouldn't work. Kurenai said no, it would work, just not the way you're thinking. Let's say we start at the academy, each team that passes the first stage gets a scroll and a training ground. They then have to take the scroll to the training ground they got. The teams fight for scrolls and either steals the scroll, kills for it, or the other team forfeits their scroll. If they have both scrolls and it's the same scroll, then they have to stay and defend their training ground they are given, while the losing team goes back to the academy. The losing team now has information they could trade for information by finding out what team has what scroll from the other losing teams. Say both teams had a scroll with heaven on them and lost, and when they got back found a team that lost their earth scroll, they could go and fight the team on another training ground for the earth scroll, and if they won then they could go and fight the team they already lost to once, in order to get a match set. Once a team has both heaven and earth scrolls they open them both and summon a proctor who marks them as a finalist. An aged voice that all of the ninja recognized said all of those are very good ideas. Everyone turned and said Sandame-sama. Except Naruto who said hey Jiji. And Asuma who said hey Pops. Sandame smiled and said hello everyone. I was just coming by to see how Team 7 was after returning from such a dangerous mission recently, and I couldn't help but overhear your conversation about the threat to the clan heirs in the test. I agree you do make some valid points and I like the idea, but a few extra rules I could think would make it even more real, like the team that wins can't leave their training ground, so all the supplies and food they have is what they have on them. That gives the other teams an advantage of being able to rest, resupply, and prepare to ambush the winning team. It's possible that some teams would only have one battle and pass to the third round, but others could have several battles and still not pass, and then there is the chance of false information. I will discuss this idea with Tsunade in the council, and I am sure we could improve on the idea as to not only make it more difficult but also make it where your 3 teams don't have a huge advantage. Kiba said excuse me Sandame-sama, but doesn't Naruto being Tsunade's cousin give him and his team an unfair advantage? Laughter could be heard, and everyone turned to Naruto who said actually Kiba, my team is at a more disadvantage. First there is Iwa who has already tried to kill me because of who my dad was. Odds are they will send a team and that will try and kill me just on principle. Then there is the fact that Tsunade and I don't get along. In fact I publicly embarrassed the hell out of her at the council meeting by not only offering her to Sasuke as a wife, but now when she's not working at the Hokage Tower or the hospital, she has to wear a naughty nurse outfit and give massages to Jiji here and Kakashi-sensei. I wouldn't be surprised if she had us catching Tora the rest of our lives and not allowing us to take the exams. Kiba looked around and said why is it that none of you seem surprised about this? Ino said I am. But I was under house arrest. Sasuke shrugged and said weird things happen around our team all the time, so it's not that surprising. Toji said because Naruto won't make it to the Chunin exams because I plan to kill him right now. As he pulled out a kunai and began to run at Naruto to the shock of everyone, and as he got closer the kunai and Choji hands broke apart as a click sound was heard as Naruto removed his hand from his sword. Everyone was frozen by that, and Naruto turned his head and looked at Choji, and he heard Desire talking while Ino screamed Choji, what the hell are you doing? Yuko. As everyone tried to figure out what's going on, Naruto said silence Ino. In a commanding voice causing her to stop talking. She turned and said but. Naruto said no Ino. As he looked at her and she lowered her head. Sandame asked, why did you attack a fellow Kon? Naruto cut his eyes and said stop Jiji. This is a personal clan matter over a misunderstanding similar to the misunderstanding between Kurenai and I earlier. The matter will not cause any more trouble as Choji and I will settle it privately. Choji glared at Naruto and Naruto sighed and said fine. Choji is upset because he sees Ino as somewhat of a sister and he also has a crush on her. As does Shikamaru. They both are angry at me, which is why when Choji was charging me, Shikamaru sent his shadow behind him to grab me at the last second to keep me from reacting. But before either could connect I used wind manipulation to cut his kunai in half. The reason they are angry at me is the same reason Ino has my scent all over her and the fact she quit talking when I told her to. Ino said his fiancé. Causing several to go wide-eyed. Choji said no you're not, you're his slave. Quit protecting this asshole Ino. Ino shook her head and said husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, fiancé, master and servant, lovers, friends. They're all titles used to describe a relationship one has with another. I've been with Naruto since before we were put on the same team together. I'll admit that he spanked me and scolded me for being bad. But I'm a bitch. Getting in trouble excites me and the entire servant-slave thing we have was my idea. Choji. Shikamaru. I see you both as brothers, teammates, and friends. But I could never feel for you the same way I feel for Naruto. He saved my life, he's protected me, got me to start taking my career seriously, as well as to start treating others better. I'm not a little princess who has to be protected or who has to be put up on a shelf and looked at. I've got tits and a twat and I'm not afraid to use them. Biba blew back with a nosebleed moments later as Choji gaped and Shikamaru slapped his forehead and said troublesome. Clapping could be heard drawing everyone's attention and everyone looked up in a tree and saw Chan said, you know how to pick them Naruto. And the Sandame's eyes widened slightly and thought it can't be, she looks just like. Naruto looked nervous and said Chance, what are you doing here? As he rubbed his head. Chan said what, can't I come see my godson when I want to? Naruto said well yeah. But, Sandame said who are you and how did you get to the village? In a commanding voice. Naruto bit his lip and Chan said I'm Naruto godmother. As for how I got to the village, Naruto has a summoning seal on him that allows me to summon myself to his location. But you already know my name. Toddler. As she looked at Sarutobi. Sarutobi paled as he looked at Chance and said impossible. You. Chan said all will be revealed shortly, remember the first lesson Hashirama taught you, patience. But for now I have a more pressing matter as to why I am here. As she turned her eyes away from the Sandame and looked at Naruto. Naruto said, what is it? Chan said pull out the color joker. Naruto frowned and pulled out the cards and then shifted through them until he got the color joker card out and Chan said good, now take your shirt and cloak off. Naruto blinked and said what, why? Chance looked nervous and said to Naruto. Do you remember what I told you and Kakashi about on the bridge? Kakashi frowned and said I remember. What's going on? Chance glanced at him and then back at Naruto who was looking nervous as everyone was glancing between Chance, Kakashi and him and she said Naruto, you know I respect your privacy of things related to your parents and your bloodline. But a couple of things happened that we never could have predicted. You remember on the way back when Desire was able to cast that illusion of your memories? Naruto frowned and said yeah. What about it? Chan said the reason she could do that is because she's accidentally absorbed some of your chakra and your blood. More specifically, the blood and chakra you got from your mother. Sandame said what is going on? Kakashi, Naruto, explains what she is talking about. Kakashi frowned and said I can't say for sure until I know more. Please let her finish explaining so I can properly explain if Naruto doesn't sir. I think I know but I could be wrong. Sandame looked at Naruto and then at Chance and said then will you explain? Naruto looked in thought and said is this related to why I've been feeling different lately? Chan said yes. Naruto frowned but took Desire off his back and then began taking his cloak off followed by his shirt and several blinked or blushed seeing Naruto's body. Chance whistled low and said, you've gotten even more buff since the last time I saw you. Naruto said I've taken my shirt and cloak off. Now what's going on? Chance sighed and said a day for a day. I didn't tell you the entire truth when I told you about the color joker. The color joker was to only be used on your birthday for a reason. I didn't want to tell you the reason why it was decided to be used on your birthday is every time you use it you will lose one day off your life. Everyone's eyes widened at this and the Sandame said what? Chan said the card is specifically designed to bring Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, Naruto mother, back from the dead for one day. It's designed to take one day of his life away from him in order to let her live for one day. Normally I wouldn't do this and would never have mentioned the cost of it. Except Kushina is the only one who can prepare Naruto for what is about to happen to him. She's the only one who can teach him to use it also without destroying himself. There is a reason the Kamichi bloodline hasn't been known before now. Sandame narrowed his eyes and said and is this the same way you are alive Lady Senju? Causing several to blink. Sakura said Senju. Are you related to Tsunade and Naruto? Chance looked at Sakura and said you could say that. There aren't many who would remember me when I used to live in Konoha. Toddler here does. Asuma asked Toddler. Sandame turned a little red and said it's nothing. Chan said I gave him the name when he would come pick up my daughter for training. Sandame said you still haven't answered my question. Chan said something. I think we should discuss this later though since Naruto needs to summon his mother back to life before something happens that he will hate the rest of his life. Naruto frowned and said, what exactly is happening? Chance frowned and said like accidentally killing every living thing on the planet. At this everyone's eyes widened and Naruto turned pale and he whispered what do you mean? Chance frowned and said Naruto. Just trust me. I can't say anything. Only your mother can. Naruto frowned and said fine, tell me what to do. Chan said cut your hand and put your blood on the joker while sending chakra into it. Just keep sending chakra to the card until your mom appears. But please, don't use this card more than once a month. If you use it more than that, instead of losing 1 day off your life, you will lose 1 year off your life every time you use it, and it will still only allow her 1 day. Please don't abuse this gift. Naruto said, I understand. Here goes. As he cut his hand with a kunai and put the blood on the card and began to send chakra into it. The Sandaime frowned, as did several others, as the card began to glow, as did Naruto, and after 20 seconds there was a puff of smoke in front of Naruto. Several coughed until the smoke cleared and the adults paled, while Naruto got a real smile on his face as there stood Kushina, who smiled at Naruto and said, hello, my son. Chapter 14. Family Reunion. Kushina was quickly tackled by a hug from Naruto and she spun around with him for a moment to keep her footing. As they stopped spinning, Naruto reluctantly let go and Kushina looked at him with loving eyes and she leaned down and kissed him on the forehead. The Sandaime said, Kushina. Is really you? Kushina turned to look at him before her happy look turned into a very angry look and she said, do you want that answer before or after I kick your fucking ass, you worthless piece of shit? Sakura said, hey, you can't talk to them. She was silenced as Kushina appeared behind Sakura with a scythe in her hand held against Sakura's neck at a speed no one besides Chance was able to follow. Kakashi swallowed and said, that's definitely her. In a scared voice. Naruto said, Mom. Stop. Please. As he looked at Kushina. Kushina looked at Naruto and said, fine. As she removed the scythe and slapped Sakura across the back of the head, sending her flying 30 feet away, causing everyone to look at Kushina in shock except Chance. Naruto glared at Kushina, who said, what? After all the times she hit you growing up, she had that coming. Even if she has changed. Sakura slowly stood up and held her head and Sandaime said, why are you here, Kushina? Why were you brought back to life? Kushina looked over at him and then at Naruto and then frowned and said, son. Are you ashamed of who and what I am? Naruto's eyes widened and said, what? Of course not, Mom. I never could be ashamed of you. The day I first met you was one of the happiest days of my life. Kushina smiled and wiped a small tear away and asked, well then, do you hate your father? Naruto looked confused and said, I'm angry with him. But I can't hate him. Kushina walked over and sat down on her knees in front of Naruto and said, then are you ashamed of who and what you are then? Everyone but Chance seemed confused and Naruto said, no. What's this about, Mom? Chance said that something is happening to me and you had to come explain it. What's going on? Kushina closed her eyes and said, close your eyes, son. Please, trust me. Naruto frowned but closed his eyes and Kushina said, now send chakra to your eyes, just a little. Good, now open them. Naruto opened his eyes, which were now glowing blue, and Kushina opened her eyes that were glowing green, and Kushina said, now look around and tell me what you see. Start with Ino. Naruto turned to look at Ino as everyone there observed him and he said, what the hell? Ino asked, what? What do you see in Naruto? Naruto said, I see white. Well no, that's not accurate. It's like I can see inside of you and your inside is mostly white, but you got a couple of little dark spots. Whoa. Gigi. Your body is about 30% black. What am I seeing, Mom? Kushina said, their souls. Causing everyone's eyes to go wide. Naruto stopped sending chakra to his eyes and screamed, what? But how? How can I see their souls? As he turned to look at his mother, Kushina stood up and said, son. I hate to say this, but I have no choice. Before sunset today you will transform. When you do, the world will relearn the secret of how bloodlines are first created. And everything that goes with it. Naruto began to go pale and whispered, so. That means my secrets as well. Kushina said, yes. But for you it gets worse. As she looked at the ground, Naruto screamed, worse. Worse. How the hell could it get any worse? Kushina closed her eyes, pulling the hood from her cloak over her head and leaned forward slightly and the black robe she was wearing began to move and black feathered wings shot out of her back through some slits that were in the robe, shocking everyone. The golden glow began to cover Kushina, giving her a more holy look as the scythe reappeared beside her and she put her hand in front of her face and a mask began to appear on her face as her eyes glowed through the eyes of the mask. When she removed her hand from her face, the flesh around her fingers disappeared, showing bones. Naruto looked at her as everyone else, but Chance looked at her in fear as the figure of the Shinigami stood before them. Kushina looked at her son and said, do you hate or fear me now, son? Naruto, who did not look scared, said, no, mother. I somehow knew you looked like this. Am I going to transform like you? Kushina closed her eyes and blackness covered her as her flesh returned and the mask disappeared along with the scythe and Kushina pulled the hood off her head and said, I don't know what's going to happen to you. All I was told was that you would have to accept who and what you are. Or be destroyed by what you would become. As a tear fell. Naruto lowered his head and the Sandaime said, Kushina. What is going on? Kushina turned to look at Sarutobi and she heard, it's alright, mother. As she turned to look at Naruto, who walked over and sat down on the bridge, letting his feet hang off over the water. Kushina looked at Chance, who nodded, and Kushina walked over and sat down behind Naruto and pulled him back to where he was leaning against her chest as she wrapped her arms around him and whispered, "I'm her son." Both remained silent as Chance said from the tree she was in, "I will explain what is happening. But only if each of you give me your word, verbally, that you will keep what you are about to hear a secret." Sandame said, "Why should we do so?" Jan smirked and snapped her finger, and the entire clearing was covered in smoke, and when it cleared there were thousands of snakes of different sizes in the clearing, and wrapped around Chance was a white snake, and she said, "Because I'll have my pets here kill each and every one of you if you don't. The only reason I don't know is because of Naruto, as I know it would hurt him. Oh, and in case you think you could just destroy these little ones here and escape, I should tell you something. There are 8 tribes of snake summoning contracts. One is possessed by Orochimaru. And another by Naruto. However, all the snake summons, including the bosses, will listen to me because this little guy right here is father of all snakes. Summons and regular. And I am his master. Isn't that right, my little baby?" As she kissed the snake on the nose. Snake Eyes said in a slithering voice, "Yes, my lady." Sarutobi paled as he heard this, and Chance looked at him and said, "You should know that better than anyone, toddler, since I was the one who first gave Orochimaru's summoning contract." Sasuke said, "Wait, then that means Naruto lied to us about how he got his." Chance said, "No, he told you he was approached by a summoned snake, which he was. I had my little pet here approach him after I left your group and give him the same test that he gave Orochimaru to get his contract. He bit him and whichever summoned tribe he became immune to is which tribe he got. Naruto got the contract for the second most powerful snake contract out there, while Orochimaru got the weakest. So do I have your attention or do I let my little pets feed?" Sarutobi frowned and said, "I promise to keep what you say a secret. And I order all of you to do the same." As he looked at the other Konoha ninja. One by one each of them gave their word, and after they did, Chance said, "See, that wasn't that hard. But you should know, don't think you can go back on your word. After all, you wouldn't want to break your word with a goddess, would you? Allow me to formally introduce myself. I am the goddess of chance, also known as Lady Luck. Naruto's mother over there is known to some of you as Kushina, but her real name is Shinigami, the goddess of death. Naruto is in fact a demigod, half mortal, half god." Tiba snorted and said, "Yeah, right." Tan said, "You doubt me, boy. How about a little game then? Does anyone have a coin?" Kakashi said, "I do, Chan-sama." As he pulled out a quarter. Chan said, "It has 2 different sides." "Good, please give that boy the coin." "Now kid, you doubt me. To prove that I really am the goddess of chance, or as some call me Lady Luck, I want you to throw that. I don't care how you do it. But that coin will always land on its side where it will never be heads or tails until I say otherwise. Go ahead. Prove me wrong, mortal." As she leaned back and pulled out a nail file and began to buff her nails. Tiba said, "Yeah, right. Lucky call. Dumb luck. This is a trick coin." Tan said, "Nope, give it to someone else, anyone there, and when they throw it call out heads or tails while it's in the air. You will lose every time." Tiba glared at her and said, "Here, sensei. Prove her wrong. Heads. Tails. Heads. Heads. What the hell? You're cheating somehow. Using magnetism or something." Tan said, "Really? Then name any game of luck and you will lose. You decide the game." Tiba said, "Rock, paper, scissors." Jan said, "Sure, turn your back from me and I'll make my sign here so I can't see you and you can't see me and you can have everyone here see that I am telling the truth and you will lose every game. Ready. Go." Tiba had a smug look on his face when Kurenai said, "You lost, Kiba." Again. 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 Tiba began to get angry every time he didn't win and he turned around and screamed, "You're cheating somehow." Tance laughed and said, "Of course I am. I am the goddess of luck. If you played the card game 21, I can't control the choice you make about playing or if you want to hit or stay. But I can decide when the cards are being dealt and what the next card can be. Just like you throw a kunai. I can't control the angle or how strong you throw it, but if it bounces off what you throw, I decide if it goes left or right or up or down. In fact, that is what happened the night the Kyuubi attack and why Yondaime died. Someone threw a kunai that bounced and I decided it would go left. I didn't know what would happen after that point, but it was partly my fault that he was hit by the poison kunai. The other 2 people who are to blame were the person who threw it originally for throwing it in the first place and Minato for not dodging or deflecting it. But you know. I don't like being doubted. So I'm going to curse you, mortal. Until the Chunin exams, anything that requires luck you try. You will lose every single time." Tiba became pale as did everyone else there and Asuma asked, "If I may, why are you here?" Tan said, "You were always the curious one, Asuma, even as an infant. I remember changing your diapers after you were born. But to answer your question, I have a question for each of you. Do any of you know how your families got their bloodlines?" Each of the ninja looked at each other and Chan said, "I would actually have been surprised if you did. The answer is one of your ancestors was a god or goddess. When a god or goddess has a child with a mortal, the child is called a demigod. These children are in fact the first generation bloodline users. The reason no one has ever heard of the Kimichi bloodline that Naruto has is because he is the first to have it. Just like Hashirama was the first to have the Mokuton bloodline and Tsunade to have the Kuretama bloodline. Sarutobi said blackball. What's that? Tance laughed and said, do you really think Tsunade's bad luck at gambling is really a curse? I'm the goddess of luck. I gave her the Kuretama bloodline to let her know when danger was coming. I gave the same bloodline to Nawaki also. It's how he was able to save the rest of his teammates the day he died. They had just set up camp on their first mission outside of town and got the fire and water and food gathered, and Nawaki pulled out some cards to help pass the time while they waited on the meat to cook. Their sensei left them to go scout the area. I made it where males would start losing when something was wrong, since they are more addicted to gambling, while females would start winning, because I've seen how women had to pay off their debts if they bet too much and lost, which is something I didn't want for my children. When Nawaki started to lose he got nervous, as did both his teammates, since the only times he lost was when his father died, when I left. And when the assassin was sent to kidnap him before I left. He knew whenever he started to lose that something bad was going to happen. I know how much Shinigami wanted to return back to the mortal world when Konoha was trying to kill Naruto as an infant. I wanted to so badly also at that point. As her voice went from happy to regretful and sad. The cold voice said, and why didn't you? Tan saw Tsunade walk into the clearing looking angry. Chan sighed and said, because your grandmother made it where we couldn't. Kami created a rule saying if our mortal bodies were destroyed, then we have to wait a couple hundred years before we could return. My mortal body was never destroyed since I left you and your brother. Tsunade clenched her fist and said, you abandoned us. Tan said, do you remember how desperately I tried to get both you and Nawaki to give up being a ninja? How I told you I didn't want you and him to die or become killers. You were too prideful, being the granddaughter of the Shadame and great niece of the Nidame. Nawaki wanted to be just like his father. You both told me I didn't know what it was like to have pride in our family and village, and that you both refused to back down from being ninja. I thought since you both got determined to honor your grandfather and your father's memories by being ninja that you would honor mine in some way as well. You did by becoming the greatest medical ninja you could, since I was the village's greatest healer back then. When gods or goddesses live amongst mortals, we are given one day for one day. Every day that we are here in this world is one day we are not allowed to return to this world before. I lived for 10 years as a mortal. I couldn't return for 10 years. I watched helplessly as your brother died and joined me on the other side, and I watched you grow into a proud and lovely woman. Do you remember the dream you had of me? The one shortly before Dan died. Tsunade frowned and said, what? Dan said, do you remember I tried to warn you? I told you that I was disappointed in you and you needed to quit your drinking and gambling. Do you know why I did that? Tsunade kept silent as Chan said, because you were with your child. Causing everyone to go wide-eyed. Tsunade said, what? But I never was pregnant. Chan said, you were. You were only 2 months along. But the alcohol was hurting your child, so I tried to warn you. But you ignored me because you were still angry over our last conversation. The one where I begged you and your brother to quit being ninja. You were just too damn prideful to listen to me. If you would have quit drinking, you would have delivered a child. That was why your chakra control was so screwed up and why your chakra wouldn't heal Dan right. You were pregnant. The alcohol you drank and the stress you had after his death caused you to miscarriage, but you were too depressed to notice the signs. Tsunade's anger began to drain as she heard the words, and Chan said, they miss you. Nawaki and Dan. They're looking forward to seeing you when you pass on and hearing your stories about the life you had. You probably hate me more than you do. It's nothing new. But I still love you. But I am disappointed in you also. I've watched you. I was there the day you nearly killed Naruto. I was there when you nearly killed Shizune. Tsunade's eyes widened, as did several others, including Naruto, who was still on the bridge. Tsunade said, what? When? In shock. Chan said, the 1-year anniversary of Dad's death. You got drunk and you told Shizune she would never leave you. Shizune tried to make a joke and said, at least until I find a rich handsome man to have a family with and live happily ever after. You got angry and broke both her arms, 3 ribs, her left leg, her nose, and stabbed her several times with a broken sake bottle, and while she was bleeding, you stood over her and told her if she ever tried to leave you, that you would do much worse to her. You then healed her. Well, most of her. You broke her spirit that day, and she became too scared to ever leave you and submit herself to a life of. She was cut off when Tsunade slammed into a tree by a huge fist made out of wood. Everyone was shocked when they saw this and saw the wood coming out of the bridge where Naruto was glaring at Tsunade, shaking to get free, while Kushina had her arms wrapped around him from behind, holding him in place, and he screamed, let me go, I'm going to kill the bitch. Kushina said, no son, control yourself. Naruto said, let me go. Damn it, I'm going to make her pay. Tsunade broke free of the wood and screamed, that did it, you little punk. I put up with everything before, but I'm not going to stand around and take your shit any longer. A second fist came out of the wooden arm that was still there, even though Tsunade destroyed the fist and tried to punch her again when Tsunade slammed her fist into destroying it. 3 puffs of smoke appeared and 3 clones of Naruto began hand signs and water shot out of the stream and headed toward Tsunade, who flashed through her own hand signs, and a wall appeared in front of her, blocking the 3 streams of water that came at her. Kushina disappeared from behind Naruto and buried her fist into Tsunade's stomach, causing her to cough up blood before she reappeared in front of Naruto, putting a knee in his stomach, causing him to gasp for breath as he fell to his knees, grabbing his stomach. Kushina said, "That's enough. I will not have you both acting like a couple of spoiled little rich boys fighting over a toy. Look at you both. Tsunade. You have had a long life. Longer than most. You may hate your mother, but you've been given a blessing also. You now know that when you die you will see your brother and fiancé again. But you're going to have to face them, as you will remember all the things that happen in your life, good and bad. That's the reason mortals die. So when you meet your friends and family on the other side, you will cherish them more because you know the pain of not having them. You think your mother doesn't care about you or wish she could be with you. I had to escort my own husband to the afterlife after he died and had to leave my son alone in a village that hated and despised him. Do you think I didn't want to be there for him? To hold him when he cried at nights alone, to comfort him after the villagers put him in the hospital. To kill the people who tried to kill him. I'm the fucking goddess of death. But I couldn't be there for him." Tsunade frowned and said, "But did you leave willingly to abandon your son?" Kushina rubbed her face and said, "Are you so sure that's what really happened with your mother?" Tan said to Shinigami. "Stop." Kushina said, "No chance. She deserves to know the entire truth." Tsunade looked back and forth and said, "What is the truth?" Tance frowned and looked at Sarutobi and said, "You want to tell her or me?" Sandame looked confused and said, "I don't know what you're talking about." Tan said, "Your aunt, Naruto's grandmother. The reason she was married to a man from the Wind Country is because your great uncle got the idea to send me to be married to one of the minor nobles to gain support against Iowa. Sarutobi here was the person sent to deliver the orders from Tabameru that I was ordered to marry another man, simply because my last name was Senju. This village tried to force me to become another man's wife because he didn't want to send a blood Senju family member. I never was a ninja of this village, all I was a healer, wife to your father and your mother. You remember Sarutobi when you delivered the message, you remember what the other part of the message you were told." Sarutobi's eyes widened after a moment and said, "But I didn't know. I didn't know what was in the scroll. All I was told to do was deliver it to you and to tell you that if you couldn't do it, he would have Tsunade do it instead. I just thought it was a simple request like give someone a tour around the village or something." Jan said, "Nope. I went to Tabameru and told the little pencil neck prick that if he tried to use Tsunade for any of those kinds of missions, all the village secrets that I knew would reach the ears of every other village before I disappeared. The rest of his life he thought I was hiding to keep my threat, and he had to make the lie I died to cover up the fact I was out there somewhere, which is why Tsunade never had to marry someone by force or do any Kunoichi-only missions." Kushina said, "I put the little bastard in hell where he still remains until the day Tsunade dies, where I had planned to tell her about this so she would know the truth and could punish him herself. After that I think I might send him on to the other side. When I get around to it, that is, if I don't forget." With an innocent look on her face. Sakura said, "You put him in hell for that." Kushina said, "Oh, you think that's bad? Right now I'm on vacation. I got my husband Minato to take over for me for the next 100 years. Every person from Konoha who hurt him because they thought he was the Kyuubi will be sent to hell by the man they claimed they were honoring by trying to kill his son. They will remain there until the day I take back over." While everyone paled, it was Kiba the first to get over it and asked Kyuubi, "What about Kyuubi?" The Sandame sighed and explained about how the Kyuubi never was sealed in Naruto and how it was a lie to protect Konoha. Kiba was shocked hearing this and he said, "Wait, why aren't any of you shocked to hear this?" Hinata stuttered, "Sasuke-kun told me already." Shino said, "My father informed me after the council meeting." Ino said, "Naruto already told me." Shikamaru said, "Troublesome, our parents told us after the council meeting." Kiba frowned and said, "Then why didn't mom tell me?" Tsunade said, "Because she and I had a long meeting until early this morning." Tan said, "Yeah, you got the cuts from her claws all over your back where she gave you a bitching. Verbally and physically." Tsunade glared at her a moment before frowning and Naruto glared at Tsunade and said, "Can we please just get this over with?" Kushina sighed and said, "Alright. Now you all should know that as long as your blood of a god is in them your bloodlines will work, but over time that blood gets thinner and thinner and your bloodlines get weaker and weaker. The Hyuga clan and the Uchiha clan know this, which is why they try to marry inside of their clan so much. There can be no written proof that bloodlines are from gods. Anyone who puts that down will die. Kami has decided that is a crime. You have also given your word not to tell anyone, so if you do tell I will kill you for breaking your word with a goddess. Now the only real difference between the rest of you and Naruto is he's the first to have his bloodline. Except he has 3 possible things that normally can happen to him that can't happen to any of you. The first is that he lives his life like a normal person and dies where he will be judged, and if he completed some secret task that only Kami knows about in his life, he will become a full-blooded god. Now there are 2 other options that could happen to him normally. He can decide to give up his humanity for a cause. If Kami thinks that this cause was a noble cause, then he will become a living god among mortals. But if Kami believes that it was a selfish reason, then he will be cursed by Kami and become a fallen angel. Or as you know them, demons. At this nearly everyone's eyes widened. Shikamaru said, "You said normally this is what happens. I figure you mean with other demigods, right?" Kushina said, "Yes. But Naruto is my son. The son of the Shinigami. He's the first and only child I have ever had. However, there is something that is different about Naruto that others didn't have. Inside that sword is a special spirit who has bonded with Naruto. This spirit was one that was created before all the other gods and goddesses. She is a spirit who has never had a body. Naruto allowed her to have a body by bonding with his sword." In Wave, Naruto nearly gave up his humanity to save the people of Wave when he attacked and killed over 100 of Geto men who were repeatedly raping women who were slaves. In doing so he nearly became a god or demon. I don't know which. But because of the bond he has with the spirit in his sword and the fact he is my son, he didn't just kill them. His sword instantly sent them where they would go in the afterlife. All 100 men due to their sins were instantly sent to hell. Everyone looked at the sword in fear, and Sakura said, "So anyone Naruto kills with that sword will be sent to hell." Kushina said, "No. Remember when I had Naruto look at Ino and Sarutobi souls earlier? If the soul is 50% or more black, then if Naruto killed them then they would be sent to hell. If you had less then that you would be safe and be sent to heaven." But, Naruto said, "But what?" Kushina said, "Son. You are a demigod, you have the ability to become a god or demon. You also now have the ability to judge someone of being good or evil. Every evil you kill and send to hell will make you closer to becoming a god. Every good you kill will make you closer to becoming a demon. I don't know if this was Kami's plan for you or if this is just something unexpected, but you now have the ability to become the greatest champion of good or the most feared evil in the world. Every person you kill will either strengthen or weaken you, depending on which way you decide to go. This is your blessing and curse you must bear. Every demigod is a task that Kami believes they can do. I believe this is yours." Naruto said, "But mom, I thought you said I was to become the god of spiraling maelstroms of wind and wave." Kushina said, "Son. That is what I believed. But I don't know everything. The only one to truly know is your grandmother and she doesn't tell us what she has planned. Chance believed that Tsunade would be destined to be the greatest healer of all time. But there is a chance someone could someday pass her. We never know what the future brings, even gods and goddesses have that weakness. If we did then Chance wouldn't have left and protected her son, I wouldn't have let Minato die and leave you alone. I'll tell you about one of your cousins, Achilles. Your uncle Prometheus had most of us believed that Achilles would one day become greater than his father, all because he had his mother's blood in him. This actually scared many of her husbands away. Achilles grew up with many watching him believing in his greatness where we saw as he was completely untouchable, where no weapon was ever able to hurt him and he could defeat any foe. In the end though, he was killed by a simple arrow here. As she touched her Achilles' heel. Kushina said, "Just that simple weapon hitting that one spot destroyed the man who we all believe might one day surpass the gods. It shocked us all." Tan said, "Yeah, but none were more shocked than Achilles himself." With a small giggle. Kushina said, "True." With a giggle. Naruto scowled and said, "What does that have to do with me?" Kushina sighed and said, "What I am trying to tell you son is that even though I'm a goddess and all your relatives on my side are gods or goddesses, none of us know what the future is or will bring. We don't know what your ultimate challenge Kami has placed before you is. Your future, like everyone else here, is the one you create for yourself. If you remain human, become a god or a demon, I will always love you my son and will be proud of you. But now it's time you learn to control your powers. Grab your blade and prepare." Naruto asked, "Prepare for what?" Kushina summoned her scythe and said, "Prepare to face me. And don't go easy on me. Because I sure as hell am not going easy on you. I told you if you ever foolishly went into a battle thinking your bloodline would save you, I was going to beat your ass, and I meant it. You got 10 seconds left before I attack. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Naruto had moved quickly and just grabbed her desire, bringing her around to block Kushina's side before Kushina kicked him in the ribs and sliced him across the chin as he flew back slamming into a tree. Kushina smirked and said, "That's one cut, only 9,999 more to go." Causing Naruto to pale before he was forced to defend again and again. As Kushina and Naruto began to fight, Chance walked over and said, "Now, since you all know the secret about bloodlines, Shinigami and I decided to have a little family reunion of sorts." As the clearing was covered in smoke a moment as several people appeared. Tan said first we will start with you, Sasuke Uchiha. Allow me to introduce Asunu, god of the sea and storms, Amaterasu, goddess of the sun, and Tsukiyomi, god of the moon. Have fun. The two gods and goddess vanished while grabbing Sasuke before he had a chance to blink. Chance turned and said, now for you Kakashi, you see this guy, this is Zeus, he is the god of lightning. But he's also a very big horde dog, which is why you are such an open pervert. Take him and get out of here before I let Shinigami shove a lightning bolt up your ass again. Kushina shouted I'll do it. As she kicked Naruto in the nuts and Naruto fell to the ground holding himself and cried out in a high-pitched voice mommy. Zeus grabbed Kakashi and said so tell me, are there any other lovely ladies in this land besides the fair maiden with ruby eyes, my descendant? As he grabbed Kakashi's shoulder and began to walk away while glancing at Kurenai. After they were gone two men walked up and Chan said Sakura. This is yin and yang, they are the source of that annoying other voice in your head. Go with them please. Sakura looked at the two men and noticed one had black hair and green eyes, while the other had green hair and black eyes, and both said, come with us to stay out of trouble, or stay and get involved in the royal rumble. Sakura sweat drops and says, my ancestors are dorks. As she was led away by the two gods. Dance looked at the other gods there and then smirked and said you. With the shades. What's your name? Shino told her his name and Chan said I see. Well you the guy with the bow on his back right there. Yeah, his name is Cupid, the god of erotic love and beauty. Well he's your ancestor. Shino said I believe you are mistaken. Cupid walked over and said actually, now, don't pollinate the flowers to help them spread their beauty. Also, haven't you ever heard of the love bug? As he began to lead Shino away. Dance looked over at the other five presents and said now which should I introduce next? I know. Hinata. I think I will let you meet your ancestor. This is Apollo. I'll let you find out about him. With a kind smile on her face. A man with a harp walked over and said I see much kindness and wisdom in you. I think I am going to enjoy speaking with you. As he gently led Hinata away. Dance looked over and shuddered and said I can't believe I am going to introduce you. Mother, what am I thinking? The god smirked and said I'm harmless. Dance shuddered and said Kiba. You see the smirking insanity there? His name's Loki, the trickster god. Be careful when you're around him. Beside him, the wolf is his son Fenrir who was your actual ancestor. Kiba shuddered as he looked at the wolf and asked what did Loki do, fuck a bitch. Loki said she was in heat. What do you expect? With a shrug and a smirk. Dance shuddered and said just listen to Fenrir, but keep Loki on his leash. The growl was heard and Kiba whimpered before following Fenrir with his head hung. After they were gone, Chan said alright you three, Ino, Shika, Cho, as hard as this is to believe, but all three of your families come from the same goddess. This is Artemis, goddess of hunting, the wilderness, and animals. Please go with her. Shikamaru muttered. As they were led away ignoring the cries of pain from Naruto. After they were gone she turned and said now as for you two Sarutobi, this is Thoth, the god of wisdom and knowledge. Please go with him. Sarutobi said why? Thoth said because you need the wisdom I am to impart on you to be as knowledgeable as you can to understand what is happening, so your people do not destroy themselves. Sarutobi frowned and said very well. Come Asuma. As they walked off Chance looked at Kurenai and said and then there was one. Kurenai frowned and looked around and said I take it that means I am not related to a god or goddess, since I don't see any. Chance chuckled and said Shinigami, bring your son over here. I got someone I want you to meet. Kushina came walking up with Naruto who was black and blue with cuts all over him and she dropped him on the ground and chuckled as she looked at Kurenai and Tsunade said well are you going to introduce her to whoever you want to? Mother. With a scowl on her face. Kushina said I think you should shut up before I wire your mouth shut Tsunade. Son, hurry up and heal yourself. Naruto began to glow as he pushed chakra into his body and after a few minutes he looked tired but healed and Kushina said good. Now Inari whispered something to you when she gave you the Ent summoning contract. Would you be so kind as to tell me what it was? Naruto frowned and looked at his mom a moment before glancing at Kurenai and said so I was right wasn't I? Kushina nods and Naruto looks at Kurenai and says do you have anything against me or Konoha? As he looked at Kurenai. Kurenai said no, I'm a loyal Konoha Kunoichi. Naruto shrugged and said then my lips are sealed. What she does or doesn't want said is her problem. As he turned and started to walk away. Kurenai blinked and blinked again and said wait. You mean that's it? That's all you're going to say? Naruto stopped and said no. I also wanted to tell you thank you. Now if you will excuse me, I just want to get something to eat, get drunk, and go to sleep. I've had a hell of a day and I just want to rest. Tsunade crossed her arms and said will someone please tell me what is going on here? Dance looked at Kurenai and explained about the real Kyuubi being killed by Hashirama and the fox that attacked and was sealed turned out to be Inari and explained about Naruto learning the truth and Inari leaving Naruto's body. Dance finished. And so you see, Kurenai here is not really a human. She's a kitsune. Causing Tsunade eyes to widen. Kurenai glared at Chance and said, why did you have to reveal my presence here? I have served Inari-sama faithfully for years and watched over Naruto when I could without raising suspicion to myself. I was happy here. Chance smiled and said because Inari asked me to give you this. As she pulled out a small bell and handed it to Kurenai. Kurenai gasped and said this. Chance said yes, that is your mother's kitsune ball. For all your hard work she has found it for you and thought that it should be you who would take it to your mother's grave. I revealed your status to Naruto so he could thank you as well as so my daughter here would allow you the time off you need to go to your mother's grave and return to her kitsune ball, so her spirit may rest. Kurenai let a tear fall and said thank you. You don't know how much this means to me. Kushina said no, you don't know how much all the times you saved my son means to me. I'll make sure when I return that your mother is sent somewhere comfortable to wait for you. Kurenai nodded and looked at Tsunade who said just. Go, I need some sake. Kurenai said thank you Tsunade-sama and I swear that I am loyal and will do my duty to the best of my abilities to serve you in Konoha when I return. Tsunade nods and Kurenai quickly leaves in a swirl of leaves. After she was gone Kurenai disappeared and Naruto screamed. Not the face, not the face. As Chan said so. Tsunade sighed and said come on mom. Let's go have a drink. Chan said, didn't you already get enough of that? Tsunade said damn it mom, you're already nagging me. I'll quit drinking forever if you just let me get drunk today. Chan said I'll hold you to that. Forever a long time. Tsunade paled and thought fuck. Chapter 15. That evening all the genin and jounin besides Kurenai had returned to the field along with the gods and the Hokages. Chance walked over and spoke with all the gods and nods and she stepped forward and said now. Catching everyone's attention I am sure that you're all wondering why the gods and goddess have taken such an interest in you. It's true that Naruto is a big part of it, but only because if it wasn't for him, then we might not have paid attention to what was going on here, since the affairs of mortals doesn't usually cause us to take action. This time, it's different. Sanday asked how's this different? And are you drunk Tsunade? Tsunade said sensei, leave me alone. I got to drink ambrosia, the drink of the gods, but me and my big mouth made a promise, and now I am forbidden from ever taking another sip of alcohol again forever, so please let me enjoy my buzz before it disappears. Go ahead mom, I think the others need to hear what you told me. Chan said now, to answer why this is different. First, Naruto's strength and skills he earned. He spent thousands of hours training, we may have given him advice just like we have been giving you, but that is all we really did for him, so don't think because he's a demigod that makes him more special to us than you. If that was the case we would never have introduced ourselves to you today and let you all die with what is coming. Shikamaru said what do you mean what is coming? I thought you didn't know the future. Chan said true, we don't know the future, but we can see what is going on anywhere in the world without being caught and we learned the Konoha is going to be attacked soon. Catching everyone's attention. Sanday's eyes widened and said explain. While the others looked curious. Chan said Konoha will be attacked by the Hidden Sound village along with their secret ally, the Hidden Sand during the Chunin exams. That is the first threat that you all need to worry about. Orochimaru is the leader of the Hidden Sound village and he plans to try and give Sasuke the curse seal because he has created that is a crime to us and has found a way to become immortal by switching bodies every 3 years. He wants to steal Sasuke's body for his bloodline while destroying Konoha. Everyone's was pale as they heard this and Kushina said, that's not the only problem though. There is a group called Akatsuki. Their goal is to collect the Bijuu and use them for their evil purpose. That normally wouldn't bother us, but mortals becoming immortal is something we gods don't take kindly to. In this group there are 3 who in one way or another have discovered a way to cheat death. One is Kakazu of Waterfall. He fought the Shadame Hokage and is able to stay alive by taking the organs of other people to replace his older destroyed ones. He usually has 5 hearts he's taken from people. Next is Haiden in the hot springs. He is in fact a demigod. His bloodline makes it where as long as he gives a blood sacrifice to his father through ritual that he lives one day. Every day since his bloodline activated since he was 14, he has killed a person or killed 2 people in order to skip 1 day or killed 3 people to skip 2 days of killing. As you can guess this guy is going to be hard to defeat. To kill him you must destroy his body completely where nothing of him remains or remove his head and destroy his body and make sure that his head is secured somewhere that time can pass and after the number of days past the number of kills he made he will finally die. Naruto said mom. If he's a demigod like me then why are you telling us how to kill him? Isn't he your nephew? Kushina looked at Naruto and said son. I'm going to tell you the best advice you will ever hear. We gods may seem to be more powerful than mortals because we may seem to be wiser than mortals because we are since we have lived so long. But we are still just as petty as mortals at times as well. We fight, we have wars, we plan, devise, plot, and try to either kill or punish other gods just like mortals. Some of us have morals, others don't. Take Zeus over there, he's married to a goddess and he's had thousands of children over the years with another woman besides his wife. His wife has destroyed thousands of towns to get revenge against him, plotting to kill his children, make him look like a fool, even tricking his children or lovers into trying to kill him over the years for his infidelity. Being a god or goddess does not make you noble. Hell, the only true people who can be called noble are those who are willing to sacrifice everything including their life to save a perfect stranger. Your team on your last mission could be considered noble after you continue your mission after you learn the client lied and could have quit then. Ability is a goal to work toward, not something you are blessed with by being born in a certain family or come from a certain village. It's not who you are that makes you noble, it's what you do that defines who you are meant to be. You wanted to remain a secret that you were a demigod because you know there is no difference between you or anyone else here. Naruto frowned and said I see. I always thought that by being a god or goddess that made you holy I guess. Kushina smiled sadly at Naruto and said son. Remember when we told you that if you became a god of whirlpools, that you may someday have to create a tornado in Suna that destroys a village to pull water inland so that it could rain in fire country to put out a forest fire, or that you would have to create a whirlpool that would sink a ship to allow fish to create a home out of the ship so that thousands of others would not starve from no fish being in the area. We are each given a purpose. Sometimes to some it seems like we are holy and other times it seems we are evil. As the goddess of death I have to take the souls of the dead to the other side. I've taken old men and women whose bodies have aged to the point they are in constant pain and that death is like relief to them. And I have taken infant children who had their entire life ahead of them. To some I seem like a goddess and others I seem like a demon. Do you understand what I'm trying to say, son? Naruto sighed and said I think so. It just seems. I don't know, couldn't grandma make life peaceful or where everyone loves everyone or something? Kushina said she could soon. But then by doing so she would have taken the greatest gift she gave all life away. The gift of choice. If every day was exactly the same, peace and peace and peace. Would you truly be happy? Content. The answer is no son. Life is about experiences, change, choice. If everyone wins and no one loses what's the point in playing? It would be meaningless. I know life is hard and painful. But this pain is what defines us and makes us into who and what we are. That's a lesson each of you should remember. As she looked at the others, Jan said don't let her beauty or intelligence fool you. She's a hellcat both in the sack and in a fight. Kushina blushed and screamed chants. As she looked away from Naruto, Ino began to giggle and then burst out laughing and said Naruto. Look, you're still the same person you were in my eyes. It doesn't matter whose blood flows through you or who your parents are or what bloodline you got. You are Naruto. Choji is Choji, Shikamaru is Shikamaru, and Kiba is still a mutt. Kiba said hey, don't talk like that to me. But she's right. You may have awesome parents and a kick-ass bloodline. But I'm still top dog and you're the dope. Naruto looked around and saw the others nodding until he looked at Sasuke who said dope. I only have one thing to say. I'm not stopping my wife from kicking your ass, no matter what. Naruto smiled and said thanks everyone. I didn't know about any of this until the night we graduated. Since then it's been one thing after another. But I have a question. Why are you all here? Something doesn't seem right to me. As he looked at the gods and goddess, Jan said well. There's a couple things we haven't had an opening to say yet. There is one other who has found a way to cheat death that you are all needing to know about. He is most likely the most dangerous compared to Orochimaru, Haiden, and Kakazu. Sasuke said who? Kushina said Madara Uchiha. At this everyone paled and the Sandaime quickly said that's not possible. Madara Uchiha died fighting Hashirama Senju at the Valley of the End. Kushina asked, was his body ever found? No. The reason is because he unlocked a special ability that allows him to use his Sharingan to turn his body into a spirit and then change back. Well each of you could hurt him if you were able to get strong enough and catch him off guard so he could be weakened. The only one here who could actually kill him is Naruto because even if Madara turns into a spirit Naruto can't see him. Also his sword can hurt him as a spirit because it has his chakra and blood in it now. Naruto said so you're basically telling me that I've got to face all these guys who have found a way to cheat death. Apollo said no. What we were saying is you and our descendants are getting hired to do a task for us. Loki said it's going to be fun for you all. Zeus said a long time ago in my prime, we had a clash of the titans. Now you mortals are going to have your own clash. You've got to protect your village, face some immortals, and deal with some demons. Nothing that should be too difficult for you. All the mortals were looking freaked out hearing this. Saratobi said I won't let you come in here and force my people to do your work. All the gods laughed and Chan said that's brave of you to say toddler. But the thing is, it's not us you are having to worry about. We are actually here to help you prepare, not send the dangers to you. You mortals have dug your own grave. You failed to kill your student Orochimaru when you discovered him in his lab and because of that now you and your entire village are in danger of him. Their village has been taking all the missions of Suna and your other allies and not giving them any. Madara Uchiha wants revenge on Konoha and the Uchiha clan for siding with Hashirama instead of him. All these things were done by mortals, we had little to no involvement in any of the affairs. We said that Kami's greatest gift to all living things was the gift of choice. It was mortal choices that brought the events that are coming into fruition, not ours. But it is our choice to wish to protect our descendants some. Which is why every night between now and the beginning of the Chunin exams, you souls will be brought to the other side to train with us while we strengthen the blood in each of you so that in the end, each of you will be basically a demigod just like Naruto. After that most of us won't see each other again until you die. I'll be popping by to see Naruto and Tsunade, and on Naruto's birthday his mother will come by and see him. But other than that, I don't think any of us will be back. I think you can never be sure. But we won't force you into it, the choice is yours. We have each told you things to help you see we could help you get stronger, the choice you each must face is do you want our help to make you stronger? Either way, the dangers we expect to be coming will still come. The question is how prepared are you going to be for it? Everyone was stunned hearing this, and Sarutobi frowned and said it seems that our mistakes will always come back to destroy us. Very well, I accept. Chan said, what about the rest of you? One by one everyone agreed and Chan said well then good luck and live your life normally, we will only see you when you sleep. As her and the other gods and goddess left except Kushina. Naruto asked Mom, I thought I was going to transform or something. Didn't you all say something like that? Kushina said I did. Channel chakra to your eyes while holding your sword. Naruto did as he was told and as he did he winced and leaned forward as bones for 2 wings formed and a few white feathers and a few black feathers appeared and Kushina said look at your back son. See those wings? Those feathers represent if you are becoming a god or a demon. If you notice you have about 20 feathers that are white and about 7 that are black. Those 7 represent 7 things that Kami judged you to have done evil in your life, those 20 represent 20 things Kami thought of as noble, so you are closer to becoming a god than a demon. But you have to be careful. The more noble or evil things you do the more feathers you will get, which will make it easier for you to someday fly easier. When you activate your eyes to see a person's soul then your wings will come out. Naruto asked, are you saying I can fly now? Kushina said if you tried real hard you might be able to get 5 feet in the air. Or increase your speed slightly. But it is extremely difficult and extremely painful because like a tooth that needs pulling your wings are extremely sensitive right now. As they get more feathers to protect them it will get easier and hurt less. Naruto asked, how do I move them? Kushina sighed and said send chakra into them, as you do you will feel life flow into them, and using chakra and chakra control, you will be able to learn to move them. It should help you in learning better control, but with your reserves and control, it will take lots of hard work and time. But for now, you still have 60 to 91 more cuts to go. As an evil smirk appeared on his face. Naruto paled quickly jumping back and as he did winced as he felt the wings react to the wind of moving and went to block when he was cut across the arm. Sarutobi looked around and said to Asuma, I think you should go and start training your team, no missions today, and everything that has been said, seen, or heard today is to be kept a secret. Teammate, your sensei has gone away on a trip for a little while, and until she returns I will take over as your sensei. Tsunade, I suggest getting to the Hokage tower before the paperwork gets higher. Tsunade paled and said brat, I'll get you later. As she left quickly. Kakashi said well team. Seeing as Naruto. Ow, that's got to hurt. Seeing as Naruto training, let's have you both spar against me. That night, after spending a few hours talking with his mother getting to know her, not the Shinigami, but her as a person as well as hearing stories about his father, eating dinner showering and at the stroke of midnight his mother leaving the world again, Naruto crawled into bed mentally and physically exhausted. As he fell asleep he found himself in his mindscape that now looked like wave and he saw his mother appear and she said hello son, ready for training. Naruto groaned and said you're going to cut me up some more. Kushina said no, not today, you see, it's not just you who is changing. Desire is also changing. The more white feathers the more majestic she will become. The more black feathers you get, the more evil she will become. What I am going to do is spend 1 night a week working on a different field, either chakra control, strategy, taijutsu, and soul attacks. Naruto blinked and said soul attacks. Kushina said yes, it's not commonly known, but Kai or killing intent is not actually what you think it is. Kai is actually a very crude soul attack used to crush or suppress your enemy's spirit. Soul attacks can be used to increase a person's desire to continue on or a person's will to give up. Your father used a soul attack to make others believe in him to inspire the troops on the battlefield while making his enemies weaken in his presence. It wasn't just the Hiraishin that made your father feared and why I was sent assassins after you. It was his ability to cause inspiration and doubt in his allies and enemies. If you doubt yourself you have already lost the battle. Naruto thought for a moment and nodded and asked so what about the 7th day? You only mentioned 6 things. Ashina said the 7th is a day of rest. Well, I want to protect you, I don't want to take over your life. Completely. Naruto bit his lip and said, Mom. I want to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the way I acted earlier. It's just. Everything has been going on and it's been so hard to adjust and. Ashina wrapped him in a hug and said, I know, son. If only I could have been there, I could have explained all this to you earlier in life and let you have time to adjust. The world is built on what ifs and could have. But they both always end with what did happen, what is happening. And right now, you need to get stronger. Not only for you. But all of your loved ones. Naruto smiled and said, you're right, Mom. Let's start. Across the village, the members of the Rookie 9 and their sensei, minus Kurenai, Tsunade, and the Sandaime, were all beginning their training. Chapter 16. Preparations. The next day, the council of Konoha had been summoned by Tsunade, and his clan head Naruto was summoned as well. As Tsunade took her seat, she said, thank you all for coming, and I know many of you are wondering why I have called this meeting. I believe this one will be more productive than our last one. As she glared at Naruto as a few people chuckled under their breath. Tsunade said, anyways, the reason I called is because with the Chunin exams only 6 weeks away, I felt a few changes were needed to show Konoha strength to all our VIPs. I have called you all here to discuss a few of these ideas and get your opinions on them so they may be implemented as easily as possible. Sarutobi asked, what are these ideas? Tsunade said, the first order is I want all Konoha ninja to appear in top condition for our VIPs. In order to do this, I am ordering each ninja to be able to complete an obstacle course and a physical exercise test based on their rank. Any ninja who fails their test will have 2 weeks to get in shape for their rank or be put on advisement. If after 4 weeks they still have not gotten up to the standard ability to pass these tests, then they will be demoted. Murmurs went through the crows, and Hiashi said, what if a person obtained their rank due to unique skills? Tsunade said, each ninja will be judged by the person I am going to ask to oversee these tests, which is sensei. He knows the personnel better than I do, and if the person cannot pass the test, he will know why, and if it is because they have let their skills and body go, then they need to get in shape. This will not only make our ninja more efficient, but will make it where any VIP that sees them will be impressed by our village strength and will help remove the doubt that Konoha has become weakened in all these years of peace that I have heard spoken about in my years of travel. Hiashi said, I see. Tsunade asked, does anyone else have any questions about the test? Naruto said, yes, I do. Will these tests become a mandatory thing every year, and if so, will they be used on Genin and Academy students? Tsunade blinked and said, Genin are considered ninja just as Chunin and Jounin, so yes, they will be in this test. But why do you ask about Academy students? Naruto said, because they are the future of our village. Any VIP who comes by will walk right by the academy and can see the students training, and if they appear to be stronger than average children playing, it would make it appear that ninja from our village are above the standards of other villages. Shibi said, that's a very interesting point. Any suggestion on what the test should be? Naruto thought for a moment and said, maybe teach the tree climbing exercise to the senior class and have it where they have to reach the top and back to the bottom a set number of times. Civilians seeing children running up trees without hands when they can't would not only impress them, but would also inspire children from non-clan families to enter the academy. It's a dirty PR move, but it would increase the number of possible academy students by at least 10% or more after the first year. It would also increase the skills of the future genins, since the sensei will have more time to train them in combat and strategy instead of chakra control. Amaru said, that is a very good idea. What do you think of Tsunade? Tsunade was quiet for a moment and said, I agree, I would also like to arrange for a medic to come and teach each senior class basic and field first aid. I once stated that I wanted to have a medic on every team and was told that it was not possible at the time because we were at war. We're at war now, so I would like to start the groundwork in moving that direction. I want every ninja, genin to cage to know basic and field first aid at least. Clans are not exempt from this. Having your clan members knowing these skills will help protect them and your clan's future, so any clan member who doesn't get these skills will not be sent on missions for this village. I rather have a pissed off living clan than a bunch of dead bodies that could have been saved. Tsume said, I agree with Tsunade, knowing basic and field first aid would only take 2 weeks to learn and would not only help our clan members become stronger by knowing not only how to heal, but also areas that will do more damage in a fight. Naruto said, Tsunade, from what I have heard and seen, I believe that all of the rookie genin will be put in this Chunin exams, either to gain experience for them here at our home or in hopes of passing. Of those 9, 8 are clan heirs or heiresses. There's a chance that another village will either try to acquire those bloodlines or eliminate them to weaken the future of our village. We should plan ahead for that possibility to not only prepare for spies in the exams, but also people trying to compromise the exams. I don't know much about the exams, but I believe that I heard the exams when it is here is always basically the same. If that is true, then by knowing what our past exams were, other villages could use that to their advantage to strengthen their village or weaken ours. Murmurs began to go through the room, and Kaharu said, that is a very good point that has not been addressed before. Sarutobi said indeed it is, which is why I think we should change the exams, but for security reasons, we will have to discuss that at another time, since you yourself will be in the exams. Naruto said yeah, I have no problem in that, and if no one has any objections in case it comes to a vote I will vote ahead of time for changing the exam, and whichever way changes it the most from our current position, while protecting those in the exams as well as our village, is the one I would vote for, because predictability is a weakness for ninja. Tsunade said agreed. Now you pointed out predictability is a weakness for ninja, and from a certain point of view I agree. For that reason I want our village patrol patterns to be changed, and I ask each of the clans to look for weaknesses in our village security that could be exploited, so we may come up with ways to reduce these weaknesses. Since Andain was injured in his office and I haven't seen combat in a while, other villages may doubt my ability to lead and protect this village properly, and would use these exams as a chance to plan for future missions against our village. Inoichi said I agree with you, Hokage-sama. If it would not be an issue, I think you should ask Naruto to take an active role in that area. After all, he has on several occasions exploited such weakness by not only painting the Hokage monument in broad daylight, wearing orange without getting caught until he was done, but also several other incidents such as that. Naruto chuckled slightly and said the biggest hole in our village security is actually the village security itself. At this several people blinked and Shikaku said come again, I'm sure I didn't understand what you said correctly. Naruto said no, you probably heard me right, the village security itself is the biggest hole our village has. I don't even have to check to be able to guess where most of our village is right now. It's Thursday. Every Thursday Anko, Yugao, Kurenai and Hana go to the hot springs to relax and meet each other. As such, one team of Anbu will be going around with a betting pool on how many perverts will wind up in the hospital today. 2 teams will be stationed around the hot springs to get the perverts to the hospital so they don't die after the ladies get done beating them down. 1 team will be at the bar on Wakashi Street, relaying the information they receive from the 2 teams at the hot springs to the team running the betting pool, along with updating the scoreboard on the side bets of who does the most damage to the pervert. That's 6 of the 8 teams that are on duty in the village all busy today. The other 2 teams are divided into 3 locations. One is the Hokage vault where 2 members will be stationed, another 2 at the front gate in case any prisoners come in so they can be taken either to the hospital or T&I. The other team is divided into 2 members, each with 2 standing guard outside the Hokage office when she is not there and the rest of the time waiting in the Jounin lounge playing cards or watching TV. The other 2 are stationed outside this very room while meetings are going on or when no one is here. So all an enemy has to do is wait until Thursday and enter the village any way they want besides the front gate because there are no active security members on patrol in the village. Amaru asked, and how do you know this? Naruto said all my big pranks were always performed on Thursday. The rest of the week I just gathered my supplies and planned my escape routes. Haven't any of you ever noticed that? Just then Shizune entered the room and said forgive me for interrupting Tsunade-sama, but there's been an incident at the hot springs. It appears Hana and Anko found a couple of perverts including Jiraiya-sama at the hot springs speaking on them and they attacked the perverts. Unfortunately all 3 need medical attention. I wouldn't have contacted you about this, but you wanted to know immediately when Jiraiya-sama was found. Tsunade clenched her fist as several members paled and she said sweetly thank you Shizune. Please tell the hospital staff to keep the victims detained at the hospital until I arrive so I may get their statements. Shizune said yes, of course Hokage-sama. As she glanced at Naruto and left. Naruto put his hands behind his head and said I rest my case. With a smirk on his face. Hiashi asked, how were you able to obtain the information on what the patrols were for today? Naruto looked at Hiashi and said are you seriously asking me that question? In the last 10 years the only times I have seen the village security patrol pattern change was the day after the Uchiha massacre when we were forced to come up with a new pattern because of the loss of the Uchiha police force and on Thursdays when those 4 go to the hot springs. Other than that day the patrol every other day of the week is exactly the same. The teams may be different but the pattern is still the same. Anyone who actually took the time to look would have realized this after 3 days of investigation. Hell, it surprises me that this weakness hasn't been exploited by someone else besides me truthfully. Or it may have and nobody realizes it. The sad fact though is that the village isn't the only ones who have fallen into this routine. What time is it? The Sandaime said 8:35 am. Why? Naruto thought for a moment and said at the Hyuga compound you have a man on the east wall looking in the direction of your clan, another guard is taking out the trash from the kitchen, 2 at the front gate and 1 on the south wall, looking toward the Hokage monument. To get into your clan compound all you would have to do is come in over the southeast wall and exit the same wall between 7:30 am and 8:45 am. In that time frame you could do anything from kidnap a member of your clan to plant explosive tags on the outside wall or release a poison gas in the compound. The Ashi was wide-eyed and said absurd. Naruto said sunrise. The sun rises over the walls protecting our village at 7:26 am. From that point until 8:48 am any Hyuga who is looking in that direction, with or without their bloodline, will be looking directly into the sun and either will start seeing spots or be blinded from the sunlight, creating an opening that anyone with average stealth skills could exploit. Their bloodline may have its strengths, but it also has its weaknesses that can be exploited. Don't feel bad, you're not the only clan that has a weakness that could be easily exploited. The Abiram clan could be attacked or destroyed easily by someone placing exploding tags and poison gas bombs on their walls during a storm. Not only would the rain weaken their bugs, but also weaken them with the poison making them easy targets. Shibi nodded his head and said, a valid weakness my clan has been working on eliminating, but have not come up with a valid counter. Naruto said simple, taijutsu or kinjutsu. Your clan is known for its long-range attacks. Find or develop either a taijutsu or kinjutsu style that will allow you to get up close and personal. Strengthen yourself by playing your weakness instead of your strengths. That's something I think every ninja should learn. The Hyuga could branch off in either medical or ninjutsu, since everyone knows that the Hyuga don't allow learning anything outside of clan-related activities, which are mostly close-range attacks. The Ashi said what brings you to this conclusion is that our clan teachings are not enough. As his lip twitched. Naruto said alright, let's say you're facing 4 enemies whose only skill is throwing. Let's say all 4 surround you in trees while you're on the ground and all 4 throw a kunai at you at the same time. What would you do? The Ashi said I would use my clan's ultimate defense to deflect the weapons and then attack. Naruto nods and asks I'm afraid I don't know your clan's ultimate defense, what exactly is it if I may ask? Zoom said it's basically a big bowl of chakra that surrounds them completely while they spin. The Ashi glared and Naruto snorted and burst out laughing and said in gasping breaths that's your clan's ultimate defense. Damn that's easy to get by. The Ashi became red-faced and said then enlighten us on how you would defeat it. Naruto said well there are 4 ways I can see to defeat it. The first is just have the guys in the trees to start throwing the weapons one right after another after the first row, so once you're in this ultimate attack if you stop you get nailed by a kunai and make sure they are laced with a poison that either kills or poison chakra if you're wanting to capture you alive. Sooner or later you will realize that you will have to take a chance and stop your attack getting nicked and poisoned or run out of chakra and die. That's the simple way I would defeat you if I had 3 others to help me. If it was just me I would use a couple of clones, a couple of poison smoke bombs that I was immune to, and just force you into tracking me down among my clones while becoming weaker due to the poison. I also could use sleeping gas instead of poison. Maybe paint thinner and a water balloon. The vapors from that shit can screw with your head and pelting you with a couple of water balloons full of that or covering the area you fight with that shit would make watching you become high on it a hilarious sight or make you easier to get in close and take out. Silence filled the room as Hiashi had turned from red to pale as he realized any of those situations could defeat him and his clan and Naruto said oh well, not my problem. But I do think I'll mention that to Sasuke and Hinata so they could prepare to counter those kinds of situations. As he looked thoughtful. Shikaku said, what about our clans? Naruto looked at him and said I haven't ever really had a reason to plan anything against your clans, so I don't really know much about your clans besides what I saw your kids do. If you have the same weakness as they do then I would say you should swallow your pride and have not only your kids, but yourselves ask Anko to evaluate you and your clans and work out a training program for you. I know from the mission I had with her and Ino that Anko basically took apart Ino clan style and rebuilt it where Ino is probably one of the top 10 poison experts in the village thanks to her knowledge of plants and Anko instructions on how to use that knowledge to create poisons and cures. She also taught Ino the basics on how to use that knowledge to its fullest potential by changing her taijutsu into one that would allow her to poison and subdue an enemy herself instead of having to rely on to beat an enemy down or shikamaru to capture an enemy for her. It's not finished, but she's at least going in the right direction I believe. If you have the same weakness as your kids, then you rely on teamwork too much and let your individual skills weaken. If that's the case all an enemy would have to do is target each of you individually at the same time to make it where you are unable to work as a team. The Inyazuka clan has the same weakness, they train so much to work with their companions that if an enemy came up with a way to them, then they would be at half their normal strength. I guess the best way to say it is divide and conquer. Zoom said, what about you? What do you think is your weakness? At this everyone seemed to perk up and listen closely and Naruto said truthfully. Experience. A civilian screamed, what kind of bullshit answer is that? The Sandaime said a wise one actually. Silencing the murmurs that had begun to spread in the room. Naruto said thanks Jiji. But truthfully I think that is my greatest weakness right now. Everything else I can think of is already being worked on to improve. Tsunade said well that is something that can be discussed another time. Well I wasn't planning on pointing out weaknesses in different clans, I think the clan heads should at least think about them to see if you agree with what was stated so you can look stronger and improve your clan's image. Now onto the matter of those patrols. Sensei, do you agree with Naruto's statement? The Sandaime thought for a moment and said I do not recall ever seeing a change in the patrol patterns mentioned in all the paperwork that I did so I am forced to agree. Tsunade said I see. I am going to investigate those who have duty today and find out why they have not been doing their duty. They will be punished accordingly. Shikaku. Naruto, I want both of you to meet with Ibiki and come up with at least 4 patrol patterns for our village security by the end of the week. Sensei, once I have those patrol patterns, you and I will go over them and see if there are any changes we want to make. Do you 3 understand? All 3 nod and a civilian said why are you letting him help with this? He is but a genius. Tsunade said damn it. This is revenge isn't it? As she looked up at the sky before she said listen up all of you. From what I have seen so far Konoha really has become weakened over the years if someone is stupid enough to ask that question. From what I have heard from several sources, Naruto here as an academy student has exploited weakness in our security that were ignored, he's out, ran Chunin, Jounin, and Anbu for hours and apparently knows more about what's going on in this village than everyone else in this room since it was Naruto who discovered the proof that Danzo was involved in the Uchiha massacre. It was Naruto who discovered a kidnapping plot against a high-profile citizen of the village. It was Naruto who has basically given us a brand new trade agreement with the Land of Wave, and it was Naruto who basically arranged a meeting with the Goddess Mizukage, who is coming to Konoha to discuss a trade alliance. In fact, as much as I hate to admit it, it appears that Naruto has done more since becoming a genin than every other person in this room has this entire year. In fact he is partially responsible for me being here. Now the reason I have him helping design the patrol pattern is because he is the one who has exploited the old one and brought the issue to light. As much as anyone wanted to deny it, what they just heard was all true, and everyone reluctantly agreed except Naruto who said not that I don't mind helping the village get better protected, and I'm honored to have your vote of confidence in me to be of use in coming up with a new patrol pattern, but if I may ask, do I have to actually be there physically or can I just send a Kagebunshin, since I want to prepare myself and work with my teammates to prepare for the upcoming exams, as well as any missions we are assigned. Tsunade said a Kagebunshin will be fine if it won't hurt your training or distract you too much. Naruto looked at her and said you're joking, right? Does anyone know how many Kagebunshin I can make? The Sandaime said I believe I heard over 100. Naruto said when I was in Wave I worked with nearly 1000 every day, working either on helping me master the ones I know or chakra control. Sandaime asked, that reminds me, how are you coming along? Naruto scrunched his nose and said well. That's something I'm actually confused about. I can make Mokuton Bunshin no fairly easily since it takes about 1/4 of my total chakra. I can also do simple growth which makes things grow at an accelerated rate and I can make a wall of wood for defense. But I've noticed that plants seem to react strangely to me. They seem to be able to either read my thoughts or know what I am wanting and do it. Tsunade said explain. Naruto thought for a moment and said well. When I fought Zabuza and his apprentice I was channeling chakra into my feet on a tree and a thought block and a wall came up and protected me from the attack. I then thought capture and the tree actually trapped the one I was fighting. Then later when I was severely wounded the plant seemed to try and wrap around my wounds to stop the bleeding long enough for my bloodline to heal me. Another time was when I got angry at you yesterday and wanted to punch your face in and well. Tsunade said so those 2 wooden fists weren't actually being controlled by you. Naruto said not exactly. At least I don't think I was. I mean I could do that same thing and I think I used hand signs, but I didn't actually have to guide the strikes. It was like the plant saw my target and used it to attack my target. I plan to get some more practice with it when I can, but it's harder than you think. My summons told me all they could to get me started but. Masked summons. You have a summoning contract. Naruto frowned and said 2 actually and I would rather keep them on a need-to-know basis for now. Tsunade said I am aware of what they are and for now I agree, both are a surprise that could be valuable to Konoha later. I can tell you this though. One of his summons helped the Shodaime build the forest around Konoha and the other. Well from what I have seen and been told. It's stronger than all 3 of the Sannin summons. Everyone was wide-eyed at this and Hamaru asked how is that possible? How did you come across that contract and what is it? That is something we need to know. Naruto rubbed his head and said all I can say is there are 8 different tribes of the contract I have. I have the second strongest of the tribes and while the weakest of the tribes is known about, mine has never had a summoner before. As for how I got it I was approached by the head of all the tribes who gave me a test that I had to pass and I did. But only because of my Kimichi bloodline. Anyone else would most likely have died taking the test due to the risk of death. As such it will probably become a clan summoning contract. Rumors broke out and Tsunade said enough. We did not come here to keep discussing Naruto abilities. I have other matters far more important to deal with besides that. Kaharu said, what else is there to discuss? You have already stated that we are going to have to do tests to prove we have kept our skills up for our rank, as well as plans to change the village security to make the village more secure. We have also discussed the idea of changing the Chunin exams a little. What else do you have planned? Tsunade put her fingers together and said simply, I do not like being questioned by civilians on ninja matters. The civilian council has not now or ever had the right to mess with the village security. As such I see that the council has let their mouths write checks asses can't cash. As such from this day forward the civilian council will meet with Kaharu, Himaru, and Tsurutobi-sensei, who will meet with me to discuss any issues that the civilians deem important. In matters of village security they will no longer be present and I will no longer have a reason to meet with them face to face. The civilian said you can't do that. The council runs the village, while the Hokage is the figurehead. Tsunade got a smile on her face and said in a really sweet voice. And what makes you believe that? The civilian said because when we had issues we would vote and give our verdicts to the elders who would see to it that the issues were passed. Tsurutobi looked at Kaharu and Himaru who had begun to sweat under his gaze and said, and how many of you agree with the Aikido statement? All of the civilian members raised their hands and Tsunade said Anbu. The team of Anbu appeared and Tsunade said, each of the civilian members here have just admitted to treason against the Hokage. The civilian who spoke before screamed what? We did no such thing. Tsunade said the Hokage is the leader of this village, not a figurehead. The council is only an advisory committee. By going behind the Hokage back and doing things without the Hokage permission is treason. Now each of you will be taken to the torture and interrogation department to find out exactly what all you have been doing behind the Hokage back. Homura and Kaharu. I have been told that you both are already under punishment for suspicion of treason. When I get a report back from the T&I department you will look at it and anything you can think of that was done that was not confessed about you are to inform me immediately. If I do not agree with the things that were done, then each civilian council member will be fined for the village resources that were used without the Hokage permission. If any of you is not completely honest about what you have done when questioned, and I find out from Homura and Kaharu that you are not, you will have all your assets including land, bank accounts, homes, and any other things of value seized by the village. You will be publicly exposed for your crimes to the public, where you will be publicly whipped 100 times to be made an example of before you are banished from the village with seals that make it where you will be unable to speak about anything you know about Konoha, and your chakra will be sealed off as well, in case you had shinobi training. So the way I see it you can either be completely honest and be put under some minor punishment or have you and your entire family publicly shamed. Your choice. Anbu, get the civilians out of here and tell Ibiki and Anko to have fun. At this the civilians began to scream in fear and anger before cage buncheons of Naruto appeared behind each of them knocking them out. Naruto said what? I got other places to go so I want to hurry up and get this meeting over with and listen to them bitch and whine like little kids who get told they can't have something. Only reason I am here today is because Bubzilla over there sent 2 teams of Anbu to get me and I didn't feel like playing with them today. The clan heads chuckled and Tsume said, it looks like you're going to be fun to have around pup. So since the Uchiha clan is working on restoring itself, have you given it any thought yet? Naruto smirked as he put his hands in front of his face and said, are you asking for your daughter or yourself? I do have a little reputation as a MILF hunter. Tsume blushed and said I see you can talk the talk, but can you walk the walk? Naruto saw the last of the civilians were taken out and said well for your information, I've already started to restore my clan, but for the child and mother's protection, I'm keeping the identity and location of her a secret for now. All I will tell you is the child was conceived outside of the village and is under the watchful eye of someone I can trust. Tsunade began to smile slightly until Naruto said what are you smiling about? You haven't earned my trust so any other clan members current or future I plan to add is something I won't inform you about until you prove to me you really are a Hokage. I may have called it true since if we fought Konoha would be destroyed, but that doesn't mean I still don't think you're nothing but a drunk old bitch whose only skills are on her knees or on her back after a night of drinking. If I didn't have others to worry about I honestly would put you on an auction block and sell your ass to the highest bidder. To say the clan heads were shocked and Tsunade closed her eyes and said look, I'm sorry Naruto. Naruto said I could answer the 2 ways and say you're right you are sorry, that you're a sorry piece of shit. I could also say no you're not sorry because you actually don't know what the hell I am truly upset with you about. Tsunade frowned and said it's because I put you through those trees and destroyed that scroll. Right. Naruto shook his head and said no. I can understand you could have thought I was a debt collector and the scroll was saying something about ordering you to pay a debt. I could also understand that you could have thought I was an enemy shinobi, since I didn't try to hide my chakra that I am sure even in your drunk state you could have detected. It's not even the fact I could have died from the injuries that I truly hate you for. It's not entirely what you have done to Shizu neither that I am angry about. Tsunade asked, then what is it? Naruto looked her in the eyes and said, you left me. You abandoned me, just like you abandoned Konoha. The reason I don't see you as nothing more than a big-breasted drunk old hag is because I honestly believe that when something you don't want to deal with comes up, you will abandon everyone again. That is why I hate you. I've been alone my entire life until a few months ago, having people telling me my family didn't want me, that they abandoned me, that I wasn't worthy of living. And then when I met you. You did just as the people of Konoha told me my family did. Imagine living my life, hated by most of the village where I have been beat, tortured, mutilated, starved, had my education sabotaged, been placed in where I saw everyone who's ever been nice to me call me a monster, or see them dead on the ground, and me covered in their blood, while people call me a monster and a demon. Having people claim they are my parents and give me hope where they take me into their home, and then tie me to a metal bed and use on the bed to torture me for days, while giving me dozens of shots every day with poisons from Konoha Hospital. Having my hand cut off so I could feel myself getting weaker and weaker by losing blood. Having sensei who I've been told that I am to listen to and trust makes me commit crimes for them before trying to mentally destroy me and then kill me. You want to know why I hate you? It's simple, I hate you because I thought that I could trust those that I consider family. But then when I meet my family, I'm nearly killed and then abandoned. You want my forgiveness, a chance for a family. Then prove it. Not say you do but show me that you won't abandon me again and that I can trust you. That I can trust anyone. If you can do that then maybe someday I'll see you as something. But for now, you're nothing to me but another example of not getting too close to anyone. Tsunade asked so there's no one you trust. As she had her eyes closed. Naruto said there is only one mortal I trust that has nothing to gain and nothing to lose for me to trust while showing me I can trust that person. Sarutobi asked, and who is that? Naruto said ironically. Sakura Haruno. At this every person in the room was shocked or confused and Tsunade said Sakura, your teammate. Why her? Why not the mother of your child or your friends or anyone else? Naruto said the answer to that is simple. When Sakura learned about my bloodlines, nothing changed between us. When she learned about my heritage, nothing changed between us. When she learned about the Kyuubi and then the truth about the defeat, nothing changed between us. Yes, she's attacked me in the past when I bugged her, but those attacks were attacks I honestly deserved for invading her space, making advances to get more personal with her she didn't want, her friendship I earned. Her respect I earned. None of her anger was influenced by those around us, she held no animosity toward me because of her parents, while some of the things she said to me at times hurt like my lack of skills or my clothing or my attitude, all those were honest opinions. Not hurtful remarks to make me feel smaller. Respect and trust was mutual and honest, and neither of us had an alternative motive, like trying to strengthen their clan image, or gain popularity, or setting a trap to use me and throw me away, or use me for their own gains to get what they want. Even the mother of my child truthfully only wanted a child in the end, and any relationship we have was just a bonus. As for my other relationships, well, I have to question, is it me or what I represent that they are after? As he glanced at Inoichi. Sandaime said so you don't trust me. Naruto looked at him and said I respect you. But you hid my parents, the Kyuubi, why I was hated, my godfather, my family name, and God knows what else from me. And don't say it was to protect me because we both know that's bullshit. The needs of the many over the needs of the few. If you revealed my parents or my name then I would have attacked the village, so that was taken from me for the village's sake. You told the entire village, but I had to hear from a traitor who tried to kill me about the Kyuubi and why I was hated. I respect you for protecting the village. But I can't trust you because you have proved that in the end I was more valuable as a weapon and deterrent than as the grandchild relationship we seemed to have. I have to question after everything that happened, was our bond nothing more than a way to control me? Where can there be trust in a relationship built on lies? Naruto turned away and said now that the lies have been pulled away and the truth revealed, I have no choice but to sit back and see where the future leads us. And ask the one question that I know will never be answered. What was so different about me as a person before the truth was revealed that you can accept me when you couldn't before? Now that's all. I got team training and missions. I have a feeling that damn cat's lost again. Tsunade said yes. You may go. After swallowing hard. After Naruto got up and left, Inoichi thought I saw what Ino meant. Sarutobi pulled out his pipe and filled some tobacco in it and said that boy will either become our greatest hero or our worst enemy. And thought the irony is not lost on me. He will either become a god amongst men or a demon we created. After that day things around the village began to change. At first it was minor. News about the civilian council reached the ears of the village. Of course, the fact that a guy was tied to the Hokage tower and given 100 lashes with a whip after Tsunade told the village the man had been found guilty of theft of Konoha property, being a traitor to the village who leaked information to an enemy to Konoha that resulted in the death of over 20 Konoha ninja and was one of the people who helped assassinate the Uchiha clan. The village learned Tsunade wasn't the Sandaime. Of course, watching Sasuke give the rude agent the 100 lashes was justice. Of course, the family of one of the Konoha ninja who he helped to get killed received a scroll informing them of the fact he was responsible for their loved one's death, and the former civilian council member's body was found 2 miles from the village, brutally beaten to death since he was unable to use chakra to defend himself. After having the rest of the civilian council witness this, they were quick to spill their guts on everything they had done. Several of which even Kaharu and Homura knew nothing about. Seeing 6 respectable council members fighting over a cardboard box was interesting until it was set on fire by an academy student. Konohamaru was even more interesting. The Anbu patrols that Thursday after Tsunade left the council meeting were each punished by the most degrading D-rank mission Tsunade could find, from septic tank cleaning to cleaning pig farms to clean bedpans at the hospital, all without the use of chakra, and 1 week of training with Anko in the Forest of Death with their chakra sealed off after Anko was told about their betting pool. Yeah, those teams failed their Anbu rank test the first time for being in the hospital and put on probation. Those tests turned out to be a blessing, since it was mandatory. Ibiki got 3 new playthings when 3 undercover spies were found, since all ninja had to have their records updated, and found 3 enemy ninja had replaced Konoha ninja at some point and had been using the Konoha ninja identity to spy on the village. A couple of ninja were demoted, but after seeing the public whipping, the ninja learned Tsunade wasn't going to sit back and take it easy like the Sandaime had. The changed village patrol routes turned out to be another shocker, as 11 spies were discovered in or around Konoha, some even going through the main gate disguised as merchants. So far, the 14 spies have been divided up as such: 3 from Iwa, 2 from Sound, 1 from Kumo, 4 for the Fire Lord, and 4 root members who were continuing their mission, even with Danzo death. The 3 Iwa nins were discovered to be planning to assassinate Naruto and were gathering information on him. The 2 from Sound turned out to be 2 civilians from Rice Field Country who were threatened with death of their child that was kidnapped by Sound Ninja, where they had to pass messages that they were to pick up at a location each time they came to Konoha, indicating a spy in the village. The 1 from Kumo was a missing nin and was the brother of the ninja Hiashi killed the night of Hinata kidnapping and was plotting revenge. Finally, the 4 from the Fire Lord were assigned to spy on his wife due to his lack of faith in her loyalty to him and were released with after sending a message that they wouldn't interfere in the Fire Lord's investigation as long as the spies checked with Tsunade when they entered or left the village, which was quickly agreed upon in exchange that the Fire Lord's wife didn't find out about the spies. The training of all Konoha ninja in basic and field first aid was a little rough at first, but was taken care of quickly after the general grumbling her ninja, thinking they didn't need it, while Shizune herself was assigned at the academy to teach the lessons, and tree climbing was introduced to the genins. Jiraiya. Well, after Tsunade beat the living fuck out of him for peeping, she healed him and then beat him again for abandoning the mission she sent him on, healed him, and then beat the hell out of him again for abandoning Naruto not only in Wave, but his entire life. Jiraiya, upon failing the physical exam being in the hospital, was publicly demoted back to academy student and placed in Konohamaru class, where he was knocked out with a sexy no, and then robbed of everything but his boxers and super glued to his seat with the word dope tattooed on his forehead. Anko made a special appearance to do that tattooing after being given a tip that Jiraiya was there and his involvement in peeping on her. She also was assisted by a blonde-haired girl with whiskers who helped organize the punishment. I mean prank. Ino and Shizune both heard about what was said at the council meeting and both questioned Naruto about it. When Shizune asked Naruto, he said, "Shizune, I care for you, hell I probably love you. I don't know if what I feel for you is love, which is why I can't say more than I care for you and would die for you and to protect you. But what I questioned was trust. Not love. If you were faced with staying with me or leaving with Tsunade, taking our child with you, which choice would you choose?" Shizune bit her lip and looked down, and Naruto said, "Don't answer. I know if you ever have to face that situation, it will be the hardest one you will ever have to make. Either way, a part of you will feel hurt and destroyed. The pain you feel just thinking about it. That's the same pain I feel and I want to protect myself from it. That is why I can't trust you. I don't want to lose you. But I don't want to be hurt again." Shizune sighed and said, I don't like it, but I understand. But I hope someday I do earn your trust." Naruto said, "And I hope someday things will work out where you will never have to face that situation and we can be a family together. But for now, I'll take what I can get and give all I got." When Ino asked Naruto if a day came where I could not stay in Konoha and decided to leave, would you honestly be able to leave your friends, family, and home behind to come with me? You have a life here, people who care for you. When faced with that, I can't trust you to choose me over that life. Ino said I hate you. I hate that I can't answer that question. I am really willing to give up everything for you. I don't know. Naruto pulled her into a hug and said then can you accept that I can't trust you, but I can still care for you? Ino reluctantly agreed. As the exams got closer those who were at the meeting with the gods began to act weird in the opinions of others by disappearing or working on things they refused to speak about while the clans worked on working to defeat their weakness and trying to figure out what their children were up to. Kurenai returned after 3 weeks away and quickly caught up to training her team that the Sandaime had taken over in her absence. Finally, the week of the Chunin exams arrived. Chapter 17. Naruto was sweating and breathing hard as he stood over the bodies of Sasuke and Sakura, who both were on their backs panting heavily each. Sakura said, damn it. Even after all our training combined we weren't able to beat you. Naruto, who had moved to hold his knees, said maybe you didn't beat me. But you both pushed me to my limits. My chakra is so low I don't think I can safely use my bloodline to heal myself without dying. I'm having to force my body not to heal which sucks by the way. As he fell back on his ass. Sasuke looked around the training ground and said I am so glad we don't have to pay to repair this place. Sakura said we would be flat ass broke if we did. Naruto said, well, what do you think about Kakashi-sensei? How did we do it? Kakashi jumped down from the tree he was in and said well I would say for you Naruto, I would say your weakest area is speed and Taijutsu. You're faster than both your teammates, but anyone who has mid or higher could still get in your guard. If you were Taijutsu oriented instead I would drop the speed issue, but since you are oriented your strikes are not fast enough for me to feel you are as good as you should be. I think when Zabuza and the Mizukage arrive you could talk to them and see if they would give you a suggestion, since the only real user is Hyde and his style wouldn't work for you. As for Taijutsu, I still feel you rely on it too much and if someone were to get you away from your sword they would have the advantage. Naruto said unless I use that. Kakashi said unless you use that, but I still want you to work on your Taijutsu some. Naruto nods and Kakashi turns to Sakura and says Sakura. Your skills have improved greatly since you graduated. Your chakra reserves have improved to solid and you have chakra control on par with Tsunade. Your stamina has increased to the point you lasted 4 hours of near constant fighting. That is something to be proud of. Your weaknesses are your Taijutsu, speed, and predictability. Sasuke and Naruto are both primary combat fighters with you as support. When teamed with them your weakness is covered, but in a one-on-one fight, you would be at a disadvantage because your strategies are too straightforward. You have 2 styles of Taijutsu you can use. The academy and the one you learned from your family. However your body has not adapted to either style, since you haven't trained enough in either to flow with the style as you should be able to. Something that should have been fixed in the academy but in Naruto words, they were more worried about making cookie-cutter soldiers instead of ninjas, so it's not entirely your fault. Speed. Well you are the slowest member on the team, but your speed is solid chunin, but because of your lack of muscle memory on your Taijutsu, it reduces it a little. Sakura said thank you Kakashi-sensei, I'll do my best to improve those areas when I can. Kakashi said I know you will. That is one thing I am glad we discussed after Naruto had that council meeting. Targeting each of our weaknesses has improved all of our skills, not only you 3 but me as well. Sasuke said what about me? Kakashi looked at Sasuke and said Sasuke. Well you should be proud of your improvement before I tell you where you stand, I want you to hear me out. We know you have been targeted and you know what is at stake. If you meet him, escape. All 3 of you. You're good enough to take me down. But even I doubt I could defeat him. It's not just power he has over you. It's an experience. Do you all 3 understand? All 3 nod and Kakashi said very well. Sasuke, your weaknesses are, and Taijutsu. You're good. I won't deny that, but you rely on your Sharingan too much to deal with Ninjutsu and you lack the proper strength to defend with a kunai against a user. Your Taijutsu is your family style, but it is built around reacting to your opponent. I'm not an Uchiha by blood and only someone who trains against another Uchiha can use that style properly since your eyes tell you how to react defensively, but you don't have the knowledge on how to use it offensively. That's not my opinion. That is a fact I was told by my teammate who gave me this eye. You have taken your family style about as far as you can go with it. Until you pick up another style that will complement your skills, then I can't see your Taijutsu improving much more than refining it. Sasuke nods and says, I understand. Hinata and I have actually both been working on a style that will incorporate both our styles, but it's not anywhere close to being called an actual style yet. Kakashi nods and says, now, if I thought this was just the regular Chunin exam. Is something wrong with Naruto? As he looked at Naruto who had turned his head to look away from Kakashi and the rest of his team. Naruto said Shizuns are coming this way and there's no one else in the area, so she's got to become one of us. As he turned back to look at Kakashi. Kakashi said I see. Anyways back to what I was saying, if this was just the exams I would say all 3 of you were overqualified for the exams. Since we know there is supposed to be more, I can say I feel sorry for anyone who underestimates you, and I believe that you have learned all you can before the exams. All we can do now is rest and prepare our supplies and mentally. Ah Shizune, Naruto said he detected you, can we help you with something? Shizune bit her lip and held her hands in front of her stomach, and Naruto said, if it's something about the baby or us, my teammates already know, so you can speak freely. Shizune took a deep breath and said, I came to ask if you wanted to come with me for my checkup today. Tsunade-sama is going to do an ultrasound on the baby so we can see it, and I thought you might like to come. Naruto's eyes widened and said what's an ultrasound? Sakura said it's a machine that lets you see the baby inside its mother so they can check to make sure he or she is healthy, and if they are far enough along then you can even find out if it's a boy or girl. How far along are you in Shizune? Shizune said I'm starting my second trimester. Naruto scrunched his nose looking confused, and Sakura slapped her head and said to Naruto, you really need to read up on pregnancy and baby development if you're going to be in your child's life. Naruto said I tried Sakura, but there were so many words and medical terms that I didn't understand and I got completely confused on what they were. I mean, I thought a woman was delivering a baby, but I read about delivering a placenta or something like that, whatever the hell that is. Then there was something about boiling water until it broke and I just got so confused. I want to do things right and be a good father, but I also want to protect Shizune and our child. I mean, Iwa already came after me once, and then we know about someone planning to try and steal one of Konoha bloodlines, and if they found out about Shizune and the baby, then they could try to kidnap her and I just don't know what to do. As he rubbed his temples. Everyone seemed to relax hearing Naruto's words, and Shizune said to Naruto, are you really that worried about me and the baby? Naruto said yes. Shizune, I know things are tough between us. Things are tough between me and Ino as well. I hate the way they are playing out, but I just don't think I could take being hurt again. I'm scared. It's ironic, most people are scared of death. But I'm fine with death, I'm scared of life. Shizune bit her lip a moment and took a deep breath and said, Kakashi, are you done with your team training for the day? Kakashi said besides giving them these, they were done for the week. As he held up 3 pieces of paper which he gave to each of his students. Shizune said, good, Sakura, would you be a dear and go find Ino and bring her to the hospital, 3rd floor. Sakura saw the determined look on Shizune's face and nodded before running off. Naruto said, what are you doing? Shizune walked over and grabbed his arm and said, I'm not hiding anymore. You want proof you can trust Ino and me, well you're going to get it. I've come to terms that I'll have to share you with Ino, and we're going to be a family someday, so we are going to look at our future son or daughter together, and we are going to get pictures of the baby and show them to everyone in the village. Now come on, or do I have to use my medical skills to force you to come, or have Ino take over your body and force you to come? Either way you're coming just like any other father, and that's final. Naruto said, but Shizune shot him a glare and he quickly shut up and thought, she's scarier than my mother. 20 minutes later Naruto and Shizune were sitting in the waiting area on the 3rd floor when Ino and Sakura arrived and Ino asked what's going on. Forehead said there was an emergency and that I was needed at the hospital. As she looked at Naruto and Shizune. Shizune said, Ino, you love Naruto, right? Ino glanced around and Shizune said, no Ino, can you admit it in public that you love him, yes or no? Ino said, yes, I love him. What's going on? Shizune said, I've come to terms that I know I have to share with him and that you will be in his life, so I'm going to prove once and for all that he can trust you and me. We are here today for my checkup and to have an ultrasound of the baby. Being a member of his family, you have the right to be here. And where do you think you're going, Sakura? You're friends with Naruto and Naruto trust you, so if he needs someone he can talk to it will most likely be you, so both you sit your skinny asses down and wait with us. Sakura said, mood swings much. Causing Shizune to glare at her, and Sakura flinched and said, she's scarier than your mom, Naruto. Naruto opened his mouth and quickly shut it when he saw Shizune glare at him. After she turned away he quickly nodded his head and Shizune said, I saw that. Naruto flinched and thought, fuck. When the 4 of them went into the hospital room a nurse said, the doctor will be here shortly. Naruto blinked and said, I thought Tsunade was going to do this. Shizune said, she is. The nurse was just telling us that so we won't mind having to wait. It's part of bedside manners that we are taught about. A few minutes passed by and Shizune had gone into the bathroom with a hospital gown and came out and got up on the bed and covered herself with a blanket, and Naruto looked confused and Shizune said, Tsunade has to check me down there and also has to have skin contact for the ultrasound. Naruto nodded and there was a knock on the door and the door opened and a brown hair woman came walking into the room backwards pulling a machine and said, sorry to interrupt. I needed to move the ultrasound machine in. As she pulled it on the other side of the bed and looked at the people in the room and said, is everyone doing okay today? Shizune said, yes, we are doing fine, Chichi. Chichi smiled and looked at Shizune before her eyes landed on Naruto and frowned and said, excuse me Shizune-sama, but what is he doing here? Naruto thought, why does she look familiar? Oh, wait, I know. As he bowed, shocking everyone and said I am sorry about what happened that day. You were not the one I targeted with that prank. The nurse's schedule had the woman I was targeting was scheduled to work that day and the prank was for her. I would have told you I was sorry sooner, but you kind of demanded that I don't come anywhere within 100 feet of you, so I couldn't say sorry. Kichi frowned and Shizune said, what a prank. Naruto rubbed his head and said it was right after I had been tortured and poisoned by a woman claiming to be my mother. I had to spend some time in the hospital to recover from being electrocuted so many times, and this one nurse discovered that I sort of got scared of needles because of what happened while I was being tortured, and she took every chance she could to come and draw blood. Start an IV, give me a shot, everything she could. I had my IV changed 36 times in 2 days. Both my wrist, my arms, my feet, legs, stomach, back. She took great pleasure out of sticking me with needles, and so when I was released I snuck around and looked at the nurse's schedule and planned to pay her back. I didn't know that she had traded schedules with this woman here and she unfortunately walked into my trap. Sakura asked what did you do to Naruto? Kichi said he put dog shit over every wheelchair in the hospital, put the hospital's entire supply of laundry detergent in the 3 washing machines we used to clean the bed sheets causing them to overflow, and he mixed up all the boxes of medicine in the medicine cabinet, putting one bottle in a different box. Luckily each bottle had its real name on them and was easy to fix before someone got hurt in an accident. Unfortunately it took the entire weekend to clean up the mess and I was scheduled to work all 3 days double shifts since Irene was sick those 3 days and couldn't come in. It was a nightmare. Naruto said so was what that woman did to me and I said I'm sorry and I have stayed out of your way all these years. What more do you want? Kichi frowned and said what exactly are you here for? Naruto frowned and Shizune said he's here for the same reason Sakura and Ino are here. They're here to see the ultrasound of the child I am carrying. Kichi sighed and said in that case I guess I can go ahead and do that part and get it out of the way until Tsunade-sama gets here. As she moved around and plugged in the machine and turned it on, and a low hum was heard. Chichi then grabbed a sheet and covered Shizune up and gave her some privacy while pulling the hospital gown up enough to show Shizune belly. Kichi asked how far along are you? As she grabbed a tube of gel. Shizune said I'm starting the 2nd trimester. BRR. That's cold. Kichi said yeah, sorry about that, but it makes seeing the ultrasound so much easier. She moved a device in her hand against Shizune's belly while looking around and she stopped moving it as the room heard a quick pulsing sound and Chichi said, the baby's got a good heartbeat. There you are. As she touched the machine flipping some switches and turning some knobs as the screen zoomed in on a section. Everyone was looking at the screen and Naruto said weakly, it's so small. In an odd voice. Kichi glanced at him and said yes. About 4 inches and I say about 2.5 to 3 ounces in weight. Kichi watched as Naruto came around the bed slowly and looked at the screen and then at Shizune's stomach and then back at the screen as the sound of the baby heart was still being heard in the room. Shizune smiled softly at Naruto and took Naruto's hand. Kichi thought not that was unexpected. And said, would you like a picture of your child? As she looked at Naruto. Naruto didn't catch it as fast as the others in the room did and he said, you can take pictures of him. Kichi said yes I can. But it's not him or her yet. Gender isn't determined for some time. So would you like a picture of your child Naruto? Naruto's eyes widened as he caught it that time and Shizune said yes he would. Kichi nods and pressed a couple of buttons and after a few moments 2 copies of the ultrasound slid out of the machine and Chichi pulled the ultrasound away and began to clean it as she handed a picture to Shizune and Naruto. After that she cleaned the gel off Shizune. Kichi said as she started to move the machine toward the door. Well, I'll leave you to wait for the doctor and good luck. Oh and Naruto, if you want to earn my forgiveness, then you have to come to the hospital after the Chunin exams are over and you are to help change the diapers of all the infants here for an entire month every chance you get. It will not only be my punishment against you, but also give you a chance to practice for your own diaper duty. If you don't come then it shows you're not really sorry. Good luck. As she left, Naruto paled and said oh man. As he looked down at the picture in his hand and said in a shocked and scared voice, I'm going to be a father. Sakura said, you already knew about Naruto. Naruto said I know. It's just. Until just now it didn't seem real. Didn't dawn on me completely. As he looked at Shizune's stomach and he lowered his head down and whispered hi. I'm your daddy. Shizune smiled as did Sakura and Ino and a flash went through the room catching everyone's attention as they saw Tsunade with a camera and she said so I hear they already did the ultrasound. Oh, it's so cute. As she looked at the picture. Tsunade said I see it's finally dawning on you how Brad. This little one will depend on both you and Shizune. It's a big responsibility. Naruto stood up straight and said I won't let him down. Tsunade said so you think it's a boy? Naruto said I guess. I don't like calling him and I feel like he's a boy. Tsunade nods and says, well, let's see how he is doing. As she pulled on some gloves. Naruto stayed by Shizune's side as Tsunade examined her, and Tsunade said, well, everything appears to be exactly as it should be. You and the baby are both doing great, Shizune. Shizune nods and Naruto bit his lip and looked at Shizune's stomach and she said, it's amazing, isn't it? A natural miracle. Naruto said, yeah. I'm sorry everyone. As he closed his eyes and said I've been a jerk to you, Tsunade, and well, you did deserve some of what I did to you, but I went too far. Shizune. I'm also sorry for the way I've been acting, saying I didn't trust you. Shizune squeezed his hand as Ino wrapped her arms around him and Ino said, just shut up, master, we know and we understand. Right, Shizune. Shizune nods and Naruto lets a tear fall and says thanks. Tsunade asked, so does that mean I can finally have a hug? Naruto said, is Jiraiya a pervert? With a small smile. Tsunade pulled Naruto in a hug and he flinched at first, but then after a few moments he started to wave his arms around and Sakura said Tsunade-sama, I think he needs air. Tsunade quickly let go and Naruto gasped for breath and said, I swear I saw my mother. Everyone in the room laughed and Naruto looked at Shizune and said, wait. You know about that? Tsunade said, Shizune met my mom who explained about what's going on. Naruto said, oh. As he looked sheepish. Shizune glared at him and said, that's something I didn't like finding out from someone else instead of you, Naruto. Why didn't you tell me? Naruto rubbed his head and said, well. When I first found out I was told not to tell anyone. I asked mom why she and the others revealed themselves like that and she told me something was going on that they couldn't tell me about and that they weren't allowed to directly get involved in it. They could use us to deal with it but they themselves couldn't. She wouldn't tell me what it is though. Tsunade said, well, I need to get back to my office. Why don't you all go and relax and spend time together? Naruto said, sounds good. Sakura said, well, I need to get home. I'll see you at the exams if not sooner, Naruto. As she quickly left. Shizune said, well, let me get changed and we could go get something to eat. I'm starving. As she went into the bathroom, Ino said, you okay? Naruto said, I'm scared out of my mind. I don't know what to do as a father. Ino said, well, how about talking with my dad Chaozu and Shikaku? I'm sure they would be glad to tell you what they can. Naruto thought for a moment and said, sure, I'd like that. Shizune came out of the bathroom dressed and said, ready. Naruto said, yeah, come on. Grabbing both Ino and Shizune's arms. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoy it. Turn on that bell notification. Like, subscribe and comment down below. And also check out the others videos I have created and enjoyed it. See you guys next video.